Good evening and welcome to the City of Pasco Council Workshop Meeting. The council thanks you for being a part of your city government. At workshop meetings, the council discusses issues, but no formal action is taken. Agenda packets are available on the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. This meeting is also being televised live on PSC-TV, channel 191, on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and is streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. Madam Clerk, if you'd take the roll, please.
Councilmember Campos.
Here.
Khan.
Here.
Figueroa.
Present.
Hernandez. Corrales.
Here.
Mill.
Present.
Grigg.
Here.
There's that your president.
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to move right to number 4, verbal reports from council members. Mr. Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended another Good Roads future planning meeting last week. We're focusing on membership, transportation advocacy, and long-term infrastructure priorities. We're also just going to send out our application for the top project, so I'm pretty sure Maria is going to be on top of that, so we can continue seeing that our project's on the top of the list. Met with a couple East Pasco business owners to talk about some development opportunities over there, and then I continued the taco crawl, hit a couple spots this past weekend. That was it.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Campos.
Yeah, on Tuesday I went to the Tri-City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce luncheon. It was a great time to just connect with people, all business owners that were there. I had a good time. I was playing some games, get to know everybody, so it was a good time. And then the next day I went to another luncheon where the Tri-Cities Chamber and the regional one. It was just a good time to hear from the legislators, kind of give us a recap of all the session as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Hernandez.
I attended another Citizen Academy, Police Academy, and we learned about different gang task forces, and also learned that Pasco is the safest cities of all the 4 cities. So, yeah,
Love that.
we are the safest city, or it's a quad cities that we call it quad cities now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we live in the safest cities, so yay to our police department for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. No, thank you for attending those too, seriously. I also went to that Tracy's legislative review meeting. There was other staff there and everything, and it was great to hear Senator Perry Dozier kind of call us out as Pasco, and just him wanting to really get our Road 76 project overpass over the finish line. So really happy that he is willing to champion that and going to be our voice to complete that project. There was, what am I thinking? Ahead of myself here tonight, the Mayor Pro Tem and I went to our left board meeting, and then also earlier in the day, like Mr. Stewart, who's going to maybe give a report on it later, we did LRA housing all morning long. Began with a special meeting, and I appreciate Representative Connors and Representative Barnard hosting a meeting of various electeds at the city and county level, just trying to come up with a game plan as far as what we are going to do about the state continuing to impose these upon our communities. And that was followed up by one at the city halls in Kennewick, slightly different audience there, still trying to come up with ideas. And there's good news and there's bad news here. The one is there does seem to be a resolve amongst our communities to push back on these, but the bad part is the state is making it as difficult as possible for us to keep these out of our neighborhoods, around the most vulnerable people in our communities. And so I appreciate the leadership of them and others who are trying to make a difference. And I know we passed a moratorium here in the city of Pasco to really just buy us 6 months to hear back from the community, of which the third meeting is this Wednesday out at McLaughlin, and hopefully we get a great turnout from the public, and some council are able to make it to that also. But at the same time, this is something we're going to ultimately have to unite as a community. And I know here in the city, we'll probably do everything we can. We listened to the city of Tenino in Thurston County, who really tried to, one of their goals was just through their codes to try to make it as expensive as possible for some of these housing units to come in to kind of price them out. But the problem is they're forced to be fair. So that means all permitting and that kind of stuff across the board has to raise the cost. So, now you're impacting the rest of your developing community and others who want to do business in your city to kind of keep out the LRAs. So I'm not sure that that's the best way of doing it. It's hard not to kind of laugh about it cynically, but it is such a serious topic. Is one of the things that was discussed was kind of using the majority party's own medicine against them. They have made this one of the most difficult states in the entire union to do business in, and tried to take those same rules and apply them at the city level to make it very difficult for those LRAs to do business in our city. And so this is just going to continue to be an ongoing topic. It's something we're going to have to probably take to the state legislature come January when the new session, but it's going to take us as a council, it's going to take us as a community, it's going to take us as speaking one voice from our entire region to keep these sexual predator homes out of our area. And one of the saddest things that kind of came up in the discussions today was somebody had talked about needing to use language instead of calling them sexual predator homes and being very blunt about it to win over the majority party there in Olympia. We almost have to water down the language and say, these are people that have just committed sex crimes, or to almost, play, just to try to downplay what they've actually done. And that's just horrendous that we would have to do that to keep our community safe. So again, this is an ongoing topic. There's going to be more meetings and more comments about it, but we're just going to all have to come together at some point to stop this. So with that, let's move on to number 5, items for discussion with opportunity for public comment. The public may comment on each topic scheduled for discussion up to 2 minutes per person, with a total of 8 minutes per item. If opposing sides wish to speak, then both sides receive an equal amount of time to speak, or up to 4 minutes each side. And we're going to start with letter A. We got a lot of letters tonight. Peanuts Park North conceptual design presentation, and this is starting with Ms. Pashon. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this agenda item is requesting your acceptance of the draft final concept for Peanuts Park North so that staff can move forward with completing the design and positioning the project for future funding and construction. As to provide a brief overview of the project, I'll ask Brett Kubalik, our Recreation Services Manager, and Jeff Stiltz from Michael Terrell, Landscape Architects, to make their way to the podium. By way of background, Peanuts Park is split by Lewis Street. The south side was successfully renovated in 2021, and along with the farmers market. While the project was originally removed from the capital improvement plan after the work in the south end, improvements to the north side have always been part of the city's broader vision for downtown. As a result, Peanuts Park North was added back to the CIP as a standalone project. The earlier estimate of $500,000 is now outdated and will be revised in this upcoming CIP cycle. In 2023, the city secured $150,000 from the legislature, which requires a final concept, 30% design, and a cost estimate to access the funds. So that's really why we're here tonight, is to continue with that process. In 2024, the city removed the trees and shrubs in the north section to improve visibility and reduce undesired activity. And in 2025, MTLA was selected and conducted community outreach to develop design options. Based on that input, a preferred option or concept was redefined with park staff and the police department, with a strong emphasis on safety, visibility, and usability. Following council feedback last fall, an additional public outreach session was held, as well as it went to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So tonight, Jeff and Brett are here to share some of the updates for that final concept design. Feedback heard last fall was an inclusion of a restroom, and I know that they'll talk a little bit about that. Additional outreach, which was conducted, and concern about including trees, since we had just removed those trees. Staff is recommending acceptance of the draft tonight, and I will turn this over to Jeff and Brett.
I believe that's on. It's on. Okay, perfect. Good evening, council members. I'm Jeff Stiltz. I'm with Michael Terrell Landscape Architecture. I'm a landscape architect. I've had a pleasure to be working on this project for a little over a year now. We're doing this update today to kind of get your blessing on this and kind of get you updated on the process that we've gone through to come up with a sound design that meets both the city's requirements of having a safe place and the community's requirements of having a really fun, nice place. So with that, so almost a year ago, well, we started this in March, going through with Brent and the Parks Department, and in May, we ended up doing our Cinco de Mayo celebration where we actually set up, as you can see me, this is me there standing out there in the booth. This was almost a year ago to the day where we did our public outreach #1. At this outreach, we had three actual designs and concepts that we presented to the community. We had lots of feedback for that one. We had a lot of traffic. We also got cut short from a little bit of wind, if you remember that. And however, we were able to reach out and get some good feedback at that event. So for that one, we actually had the board set up and we had people voting and having comments for those items, which I'll go into the concepts a little bit later on the next slide. Public outreach #2, we did the concept presentation where we did it in the council chambers here, and we did it as an open house. So we had the community members come in here. I believe we had that one online, so people could watch it if they wanted to, and give feedback through online and in person. That was a little bit more interactive. We had one of the police officers there that night also being able to give some feedback too, where we actually took the concepts and kind of combined them. For the preferred options, we developed that and then cycled it through the concept that I'll show you tonight, or at least the close variation of it. And then in October, we presented that to the city council. At that meeting, there were a couple comments, one of them being the restroom inclusion. Through that, we actually looked at it between October and November and tried to figure out if that would be the best place for it. As I go through the kind of the scope and the concepts and how this works, one thing to remember is that we were really trying to keep to the crime prevention through environmental design. So trying to keep sight lines open, trying to make it so that the visibility is higher to reduce the crime that actually happens there. And one strategy in that is keeping sight lines, which if you know the space, and I'll talk a little bit about it on the next slide, is that if it's narrow and tight like that, you create obviously some no longer sight lines, you create areas where it is. And then we also determine, Brent and the Parks Department determine that if they, the site is so small and there are public restrooms across the street in Peanuts Park, the south portion of it, so that would serve the requirements of having the bathroom within an area to be able to serve the public. So we had the final concept and we put it out for an additional online survey. And then today we were doing the update of that, of all of those combined and the concept that came out of it. The next phases to that are looking at what the phase 1 construction might be. I know Angela had mentioned on some of the points there is funds available that need to be used, but there's not very many funds that are part of the grant, so it may be more of a baseline, might be utilities and kind of a structure to kind of get to lay out and begin the work, and then doing the amenities at a later date. So on the background here, we've got the downtown Pasco plan. I wanted to kind of put this up and just put it up as a. We did look at the downtown Pasco plan while we were going through design. So we took a lot of these items and actually incorporated them in the design. There's one thing in here that didn't make it in. which was something that was commented on, and it was also commented on the public, which is the spray park. There was some concerns about that from the city side, both the police department and the parks side of maintenance, of why this space may not be the best inclusion for the size of the area and where it's at, and the obvious uses that are happening now within the area. However, we did incorporate the outdoor public art ideas, the murals, the lighting, the seating, the landscaping, and other programming to be included within that as well. So Peanuts Park North is the small plaza, which is actually directly north of the Peanuts Park whole that was renovated recently. And so the idea was to try to blend those together, or try to create a space that feels like it's part of the downtown area and kind of blend those areas together. And so while we were going through concepts, we wanted to look at three very different concepts for public comment. One of them was a space that reflected the synergy of the existing park as it's designed today. So it pulls that look and that feel to across the street and kind of makes it feel like it's actually part of the same park, and not a separate space that might be forgotten or may seem disjointed because it's not part of the park itself. The next one is a community engagement, which looking at what we could do for recreation, so sports courts or some kind of sport activity, a little bit of grass area, and then having community engagement kind of in that front portion of there, right along Lewis Street. And then the last concept, looking at how to incorporate art areas, so where you could actually do like an art walk. So you'd have some public art, and you'd have more than just 2 or 3 pieces where you could actually go and experience the art itself. And then a social area that would look at how people would engage on a more personal level within a social aspect, chess tables, ping pong table, items like that. So the main programming. So this is the preferred concept, which we landed on, and the preferred concept actually took a little bit from all 3 of them. This was kind of pulled together because we did get bits and pieces from each concept that everyone liked. We took the best pieces that everyone commented that they really liked, and we incorporated them. And once we incorporated them, we sent it back through the Parks Department and the Police Department, and asked them to give us their feedback on what this preferred option is, and then went back out to the community and asked them what they would like to see. So the main programming of this is that it does pull a little bit of the design from the Peanuts Park as you know it today, with some of the hardscape and the bands that you get in there and the feel of the arcs. So it pulls in and it has some of the wayfinding points, which are the columns that you'd see right at the entrance going into the plaza. It creates a plaza space fronting Lewis Street, which was a item that was pulled from concept number 2, that people wanted to see more of the seating and the activity for maybe a plaza that happens more often than not happen right in the front, right off Lewis Street. So there's positive activity that happens right there. We incorporated a temporary sports, recreation and event activity space, which I'll kind of cover a little bit later, but it's kind of the big open area, which could be turned into a temporary flex space. So if you wanted to set up a temporary, pickleball court or a temporary futsal court, you could easily do that in that space. Also incorporating art walk and mural opportunities, so increasing those, so that way you have when you go from the market space to the existing Peanuts Park space that has a little bit open area, and then if you want to experience something that's a little bit finer with the arts and walking through the arts, this would give you a different experience as you enter this space. Also outdoor seating opportunity for maybe future food, with also being the designer or the area that's the open space in the back also talked about being, maybe being able to pull like food trucks right in there too. So if you had events in both spaces, Peanuts Park and Peanuts Park North, you could have kind of an event that actually goes between both those spaces. The other part, looking at fencing is for security, so kind of creating a back secure fencing area, so that way if it's after hours and you have some people coming in from the UGM or working in the UGM offices, you actually have a secured access there, so it's not open to the parking lot in the back or the alleyway. And then also on the front, being able to close it off, or if there were some sort of private event, it would make it easier to close off in that sort of event too, as well. And then the other part being the removable shading. So the removable shading was one of the comments that we got was that there needs to be shade. A lot of people commented that we want to see trees out there. We want to have a nice place where it's shaded, because it does get really hot out there. And our solution was looking at, well, if we did the shading as such with the removable shading, then those can go up and they can be put up and brought down based upon what the needs are and how those change. So going from the north to the south, we have these are kind of the areas that we designed in. So the access gate into the open flex space that could be used for events, and then going through, what's that? Okay, and then going through and getting to an open flex space that then is fronted by a social activity or kids space. So incorporating some sort of element there that may be a play area. That was also a comment that was coming. Obviously, this is conceptual, so the programming of that may flex as it needs to be as we go towards design. And then going into overhead shading with lighting, maybe string lighting to really light up the space. Stage for performances, so if there is a performance happening in the Peanuts Park, the existing Peanuts Park now on their performance area, maybe if there was a second band that was playing, they can move to this area, and if they want, and if there was a larger stage that could be set up in the back towards the flex space, you could have a music festival between the three spaces. And then a planting area with native and low water use that is fronting all the buildings, so that way it keeps all the activity off the buildings itself, but then also kind of pulls the vegetation into that space to kind of brighten it up, so it's not all hardscape. So programming opportunities, these are just a couple of examples that I was able to find of, social events, if there was some sort of after work, get together, social, food events, where you get together and have, you could set up tables out there and have a whole event going on with those. Recreational events, you can see cornhole set up out there, or any other type of games that might be played in an open space like this. And then a kids and arts event where, maybe there's chalk art and they draw all the chalk stuff. So kind of keeping an open space on here, so that way as the events happen in the existing farmers market and the Peanuts Park, this might be a separate area where maybe it's the smaller kids events or something, or something that changes but plays off of the existing spaces. And then going to the south, small stage for performances, public art locations, flex seating, plaza access gate to be able to go in, and then the gateways that are similar to the Peanuts Park to tie it all back together. And some of the examples of the stuff that might happen in this space would be like giant games, or physically active games like the ping pong. Surface play, you can see the playground there with the turf, but then you actually have some play elements in there. A flex hard space in the front, which could where you could have outdoor flex seating. So if there was an adjacent business next door that might serve food or coffee, you can actually access this space from there. And then the second stage opportunity. And then last is the kind of the art walk examples. So, looking at the sculptures and, shade mimicry. So maybe some of these art sculptures are actually the ones that actually do cast shade. Flowers, if we brighten it up with something that is there even during the winter months. And then murals. Obviously, you have buildings on both sides that have a lot of space that you could do murals to kind of highlight the history and the community of Pasco. That kind of concludes mine. So, is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Stilts. Thank you, Mr. Kubalek. Any questions from council? It's our park that's downtown. Thank you, Mr. Campos. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. Just for kind of clarity as far as like the dimensions and everything, the entrances, I understand that maybe the need for fencing, but the entrances, how big are they going to be? My concern is just maybe like if we get tons of people there and, tons of people want to leave at the same time, we're going to have a line of people just to exit or like just kind of get clarification with that. Thanks.
Yeah, so we've got plaza access here at 24 feet, and I have that as sliding gates, so that way when you do open it up, it actually opens it up, but as it slides, you actually do sort of, I believe the space itself is only 50 feet wide, so
Right.
you're opening up about half as much as you can, and we did the best we could to accommodate that ask from City of Pasco Parks.
Just a clarification on that as well, that one of the challenges that police say they have there and stuff is enforcing the parks hours and things like that, something posted, and having in front these, it's a shorter fence with just the sliding gate, so it's not some big, it creates the delineation that then, they know if you're in this area after park hours, then it enables them to enforce the park rules more so that way.
Thank you for that. And how about the other side, the other entrance? If somebody was, if they're parking on that other side to get into that side.
Right. And so this one is a little bit modified. This one, talking through it is going to be a little bit taller of a fence with the sliding gate to be able to access it so you can pull, events in there. And then also having pedestrian access gates in there because we do realize that there is another, business with the UGM offices being there that they need to have access there, but it also creates access control for them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Campos. Councilman Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. So we need to appropriate and use the $150,000 right now. Isn't that what we're trying to accomplish? So we need to.
Yeah, so right now, basically it's, we're getting your blessing to keep moving forward on in the process, because to get the $150,000 for the grant from the state, we have to have 30% plan and budget, and to be able to do the paperwork and stuff to qualify and get the funding. And that would allow us to do kind of a first phase baseline, like was mentioned.
So based on, this is to this gentleman, based on this design, kind of like what you're seeing, do we have a kind of ballpark estimated cost? Like just top of your head, I mean, it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be right on, but just, I just want to have an idea because obviously we don't, we're really going to have to look at our budget, but obviously we're going to have to wait on grants or something. So in my mindset, I'm trying to figure out, okay, how long is this going to be from design to actually constructing it?
Right.
Because we're going to have to wait on something, right?
So pulling the number out of my head, I tend not to do that. So I'll caution you with that. However, I believe that there is enough to fit within the budget to be able to do utilities and like flat work to be able to start the process. So you get something that might be the fencing, the flat work, the utilities established. So that way, when the next round comes, you can add the next phase, which could be landscaping, the tables, the the shade sails, and then maybe you move beyond that for the further phase and do playground and that sort of thing. So
So we're looking to take out the existing concrete, though. I mean, pretty much, and start from the ground
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I mean, my position would be I'd like to just get it all done at one time, not do it in phases, because it's just a multi-year thing. But obviously, we don't have the funding. So I mean, I would rather wait just to go in there and get it all done. Okay. But I mean, if I had to put a number on it, I mean, I saw in the staff report, 2 to 4 mil, maybe, roughly.
I'd have to run the numbers.
Okay. Okay. Then my other question was, so there's gonna be no bathrooms over here? I thought I heard there was gonna be a bathroom on this side.
So that was one of the comments from one of the, I believe it was at the last meeting where that had come up, where that might be an amenity to look at. And while looking at it, the space is really only 50 feet wide by 100 feet long. If you create a bathroom, even a small restroom area, it's going to block out and it's going to create sightline issues wherever you put it.
Okay.
So that's one of the issues. The other issue is it does create, utilities actually is much more expensive then, because then you have to start dealing with sewer. You have to start dealing with potable water. So there's other things that get involved with that. And then the structure itself for the restroom. So all part of those kind of playing a part because of those, then Parks determined that the community open public restroom is across the street in Peanuts Park, the existing Peanuts Park currently.
My only issue with that is that, I have little kids. And so sometimes walking across that, by the time we get to walk over, Leia's already wet her pants. So I'm just thinking I don't know if that's even doable. And I measured it out. It's about 200 feet kind of from right at the end to where the public bathrooms are at. Would there be a possibility to perhaps have a spot for porta potties or something? Because the porta potties don't take up too much work, or too much space, excuse me. Maybe like 1 or 2 somewhere in a corner. I don't know. I mean, we're trying to do this whole environmental design thing, but I think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, again, this is the concept, right? And of course, from concept to final design and then work, there is always tweaks as well. And so something to look at, yes, but the question then now as well is, do we like this and should keep moving forward?
Yeah, no, I like the design. I mean, this is kind of what the public wanted. And I remember the preferred design initially was like having a pickleball court or something. I'm like, well, that's not kind of what the public wanted. Everyone kind of wanted this one. So, no, I'm happy with what I'm seeing. I would like to see a little bit more trees. I know a lot of people were upset that all the trees got cut down and stuff, but, the shade structures are nice, but people like to kind of be around.
Yeah, that was the give and take as well. Is the shade is great, but again, the sight lines and things like that in such a confined space is a challenge. And so we're thinking, how can we get shade and create nature in a way without disturbing sight lines? And that's why thinking with the shade sails as well as incorporation of the art pieces and being able to can kind
Yeah, I like the ones that you had in there, like the art pieces that were kind of looking like trees. That'd be kind of cool.
Yep.
Lastly, it's not like a gotcha question, but I was thinking, we're like, oh, we want to activate the space, and I'm thinking, why aren't we really using the space now? For a lot, just having an event down there, because we really don't use it. Now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of it's.
Well, a lot of times when we say activate the space, it's not necessarily talking about us planning and doing things there, but creating a space that is welcoming for events, for people, for example, for quinceañera to come down and rent the space and have their quinceañera in that, or a outdoor dining event, or like across the road where they have they do the outdoor dining in the alleyway there. They could spill over and do something, and so it's creating a space that the community could use in various ways and again, with the gating stuff, it allows the access, controlled access for those types of events and as well. So just creating a space that lends itself to multiple options for the community to come and use and activate the space that way. It's not just necessarily us planning that there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to you, sir, nope, the Parks and Rec Director doesn't have a comment after all. Councilmember Figueroa.
Yeah, so I just have two comments. So on the aspect of the stage, is this an elevated stage to enhance visibility? And also, does it include a way to increase vocals for like performances and stuff like that? Do we know that yet? And if not, could we potentially look into working those things in? I mean, I've been to a lot of community spaces where it's not meant for stage performances and it's not an enjoyable experience. So if we are going to invest and reactivate this space, I want to ensure that we are doing our due diligence in these details to enhance the experience of our residents. So that's part one.
Yeah, no, I like we've kind of been going through this is concept level. We haven't determined if it's a stage that's set at grade or if it's raised and what the use is of that stage. So as we do get further in design, we definitely do look at how those performances activate and what they're used for. I know there's lots of different types of performance styles. So some of them are just like a busker that's on the street. Maybe they're just using the at grade level, and maybe it's just to perform in front of passerbyers or a group of 10 or 15, or if it's a full stage and you actually need to have the acoustics and the electronics and power and all that. So as we look at that, that's one of those aspects that we do look at while we go through design.
And part of that again is looking at the space. What does the space more lend itself for? It is a smaller space, so if you're talking about acoustic and stuff, it's not going to be large scale because it's more of a smaller venue. But looking at that is, like you said, something that's developed through the design process of what makes sense for the space there and the acoustics that would be there and all that.
Perfect. And just to second some of the concerns of my colleague, Councilmember Perales here on the restrooms issue, because as you mentioned, if there's a private event, right, and we close off that gate that you have there at the Park North, right, are they going to have to go all the way up around and into the restroom facilities, or are we able to, again, as we're finalizing concept plans, kind of provide some space for those portable ones? I mean, especially like if you're talking about quinceañera or something like that, I'd hate for them to kind of have to go across the street, it's a family function or there's a good event and there's family friendly events and having to take the kids all the way across and miss some of that event space. So just kind of, again, as we're talking about finalizing these plans, I think that'd be really a good suggestion to kind of really think about, even if it's the porta potties. I mean, at least that's something, and it saves some steps for sure. So thank you. Appreciate the presentation.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hernandez.
Will there be a cost for renting it for a private event, or is this just, how will it work?
That is something will be determined later, of course, as we move into that. But with all parks, for example, shelters in the parks, the Peanuts Park pavilions, things like that, public parks, the spaces there, if unreserved, can be used by, you could go to Memorial Park and have a picnic underneath the pavilion there. If it is reserved, then it's reserved for that group, and it'd be a similar thing there, that there probably would be a cost to reserve the space to ensure that you have it for your event and your group. Whereas otherwise, if it's not reserved, people can come and go during park hours and as they will.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Before, I guess you guys asked for some direction before we get to that point, we should open it up to the public. If anybody in the chamber would like to speak on this issue, for or against, or this would be the appropriate time to do so. Anybody want to speak on these concept designs for Peanut Park North?
Dave Cortinas with LBA.
Thank you.
I was hoping Mike Gonzalez was going to be here, but he sent me some bullet points to go over. First of all, this design was, I mean, we're down to the very end of using this money for the design. At the very bottom of this information says if the council delays or stops the design process, the city could risk delaying the project or possibly losing access to the grant the funds. So, I mean, it's like, do it or don't do it, or get it done now, or we're gonna lose the money. We've been sitting on this money, this grant, for quite a time now. And why wait until the very last minute to spend this money on this design? I'm for the design. I'm glad that we're deciding to go with what the community voted on. We voted on this over a year ago, Cinco de Mayo. They had all the designs up. We've had 3 opportunities to vote on these things. We voted for C, okay? We didn't vote for pickleballs. We didn't vote for ice rinks or anything like that. But a design this size, $150,000 grant, I mean, it doesn't take that long to design one. The other thing, the mistake was they cut down the trees. We already had beautiful trees with lots of shade. Now we're gonna have to spend money to build and put shade in. So there's been some mistakes along the way, and now we're down to the last minute to make a decision. What do we do and how do we do it? So we agree on going with C. We think it's the best way to go. We also have a couple of ideas on how to get food courts or food stores in there to feed and sell food to those people that visit that park. As long as there's picnic tables, as long as there's ways that people can be able to buy food. And lastly, there has to be restrooms. Mr. Figueroa, I agree, and Mr. Perales, we got to have at least 1 or 2 bathrooms. If you have a child, they need to change the diaper. They need to be able to go in the restroom and change diapers, or be able to use the restroom. As a senior citizen cannot walk across the street, and those restrooms are always locked anyway. So the idea that you can walk across the street to use the restrooms, they're locked all the time. They're never open. So we need to have restrooms in that area. If it's going to be a park, we need to have restrooms there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the council chambers want to speak on this issue? Going once, going twice. All right, council, what do you want to do? Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, I mean, I'm for it. I mean, I think we need to use the money, and other concept designs can be kind of thrown in there. So, yeah, I say we approve the allocation and use these funds.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem?
Said the words I was trying to say. So, sounds good.
Okay. Anybody else? Good? Sound good? All right.
Yeah, I
I'll,
definitely agree, and just with the suggestions that we can work on that. And then I think the overhead shade kind of deals with some of the climate stuff. I mean, I know that having trees in there is some work, so we're trying to be eco-friendly and everything else, and cost-effective as well. So I think that really helps with that. And then one last question: do we know if like the lighting will be seasonal, or will it be there for the entire Watsa?
Again, those are things that are developed through the design process.
Perfect. But yeah, I mean, definitely be in favor for this.
And just for one last point of clarification from council too, I see, and I'm glad, I love all of these next few items together, but the restrooms, do we all want to see restrooms as far as, is there enough agreement that that is important to us to see restrooms in the north? Okay. Small, but yes. Thank you. Okay, but we want a restroom up there, okay?
I'll just note that including a restroom will increase costs.
Yep.
And then working with the police department and their concerns about sightline. I just want to make sure that we're okay with that to proceed forward.
Okay, still good? Councilmember Perales? You on this? You guys good? Yep.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Moving on to letter B, park bathroom security enhancements. Speaking of, back to you, Ms. Vachon.
Exactly. Okay, so good evening, Mayor and Council. Let's see here. So the City of Pasco has 28 parks which operate seasonally April through October. They're open daily from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we have 7 locations with permanent restrooms, which are secured through an automated locking system. I will note, actually, just as a quick note, Deputy City Manager Sigdahl was driving back to this meeting and noticed that we had some individuals at Volunteer Park and actually had already propped the door open because they know when those locks are going to change. And so I'm just putting that out there because she experienced that today. But parks are a core asset to our community, and access to clean, safe restrooms in these parks are an important part of that experience, particularly for families, youth sports, and community events. While staff currently provide daily cleaning and regular monitoring during the opening season, we continue to experience issues at several of our locations, including vandalism, misuse, and damage that result in temporary closures. These closures are not only impact the public's ability to use the parks as intended, but also require additional staff time and resources to repair and maintain them. In some cases, we have to rely on portable toilets as a temporary solution, which are less desirable and present similar challenges. In response, staff has been evaluating a range of strategies to aim at reducing incidents and improve our response, increase overall restroom availability, and experience in the park. These options vary significantly in cost, level of effectiveness, and operational requirements, and include both staff-based approaches and technology-based. So tonight, presenting some of the options, we looked at the top 4 areas where we see the most incidents. So Volunteer Park, Sylvester Park, and Memorial, and Schlegel Park. These ones are the ones that we respond to most with vandalism. Our goal is to improve the experience for recreational park users, and with the understanding that elimination of bad actors is not something that we can completely achieve. In discussing with our neighboring cities, it's important to note that this issue is not isolated to the city of Pasco, and each community has experienced increased incidents, and we're all committed to working together and trying approaches and sharing those experiences. So for discussion tonight, some constraints when we go through this is obviously the infrastructure that's required, staffing capacity, enforcement limitations. Our police are phenomenal, but they have an entire city. So it is, incidents that are happening in our parks are going to be, prioritized, thank you, prioritized with all of that in mind. We do want to make sure the public access is there. I will say that our staff are very prideful of our bathrooms and making sure that cleanliness is important to them as well as safety. So they think about their kids going into those parks and those restrooms, and sometimes that means that we close them because they do not feel it's safe. So we understand that that is an inconvenience, and we'll work with communications to probably do a better communication plan out there of why parks may be closed, just so that they understand that. Another constraint is obviously funding. These options do cost money, so that is what we're bringing to you tonight. Expectations: no single strategy is going to eliminate what we're experiencing. Options aim to reduce the incidents, improve response, and then monitoring tools so that we can look after the fact oftentimes with these systems and options that we're going to provide. So option 1 is closure checks, and this would be utilizing security service such as a Phoenix Security that would actually physically go check the bathrooms at the closure to make sure, one, there's no one in it, the doors aren't propped open. Oftentimes we have individuals who prop doors open, and if we do not see that at closure time, that means after dark, they're able to access that facility. So what would be great for us to do is be able to implement this and then identify and evaluate, is that when the majority of that damage is happening? And so we can use that as a stepping stone. We looked into this. It would be $10 per location per check per day. So we're estimating about $15,000 for the season. And I will say that we've already had about 80 hours of park staff that has been responding to vandalism or incidents at our parks. So it's going to add up quickly, the amount that they're responding there. Pros: this limits damage overnight. And then cons, it does not cover hours bathrooms are open. So we may still see incidents happening. Option 2 is security services. So again, using a more like a Phoenix security and utilizing them during open hours. And we could do that where they are either stationed at each one of the restrooms, or we could split them between the restrooms. So when looking at that for a season, that would cost, if you did 4 individuals every day, it'd be about $434 or $434,000. But the pros on that are their trained security presence, and they have the ability to monitor inside and out. There's no cleaning service that comes with them, so that would be an additional charge. And this is scalable, so this is again another option where we could look at adding this as a service and scale it up or scale it down. Temp staffing services. So we do have temporary staff or seasonal staff that we utilize currently on a daily basis. However, they are rotating between all the restrooms, so they are doing as much as they possibly can. So there are times where they may only be able to check a restroom once, maybe twice a day during the busy seasons. We could increase this, and again, we could station more temporary staff at these locations. If you wanted to do all 4 bathrooms that we were talking about $500,000 a season, so very expensive, but again, scalable. This has the presence that's continuous. They provide the cleaning service during our open season as well. It is costly. It expands the use of our city vehicles for temporary staff, which is a higher risk for the city. And then they're a simple presence, and they're not trained in the patrol tactic. Option 4, cameras. Cameras, and I know that the city of Richland, I've talked with them, they are utilizing this LVT type solution, and they started that last year. They've seen really positive impacts from that, but they've also learned a couple lessons that we get to learn from them. And so staff did look for these units. You have 2 options. You've got either mobile units or fixed pole units. Those mobile security units, you think that you can move it from point A to point B, but you need a licensed technician to do so. So that's one of the things that Richland learned. So they have been very successful over there, and they're planning to continue this process. But again, costly. So when we looked at the 2 fixed poles and 2 mobile units, $131,000 annual cost. So that would be include the leasing, the software, the technology, all of those elements that go with it. One of the pros of leasing versus buying is that if there is vandalism, they will replace it or they will fix it. So if we can buy these outright, however, the service that comes with that is probably pretty important to consider. When talking with Richland, they're using the basic functions, so they're doing after incident evaluation. They are not using the current live functioning, and they've still seen a positive impact utilizing that. Richland has some different codes that allow their parks to be open 24 hours a day, so they also don't want to implement something that maybe they have that talk down feature where it can identify someone in the picture, and they were concerned that that could lead to park usage actually going down because people might be there appropriately. So they're not using the real-time technology at this point. Cost is obviously something for consideration, as well as setting the expectations of police response. There is another option that is more cost effective, and that is utilizing a camera function that we currently use at the city. So whether that's you're coming here to City Hall or the animal shelter has this as well, we do have a technology that records as well. And that's a very known system to us. It's less costly, but I will say, just working with WCIA as well, we haven't seen the biggest impact for having just general cameras. People know they're there, but they don't tend to pay attention to them as much. It's a limited fixed, you can't move them, obviously. It's a single view versus multiple views on the other cameras. And then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about records retention and requests on both of these, as you all have had the Public Records Act training recently. Another option is keypad locks. When I talked to the city of Kennewick, they did implement this, but they said it is, they had a lot of failure with it. It's expensive, it's $1,000 per lock, and it's all manual. So if you want to change a lock code, you have to manually go out and do that. Also, lock codes and the numbering get shared very quickly. So challenging to kind of keep control going with that. More cost effective than some of the other options, but may present usability challenges for some users. So tonight, recommendation from staff is to implement a phased and layered approach that balances cost effectiveness and operational feasibility. So we're recommending an implementation of those closure checks at the locations. And then we're also, if council is interested, the LVT provider or the vendor that we have talked to has indicated that we could do a 30-day pilot program with them to try that out as well. So staff is really just looking for council input and direction on if there's additional options you would like us to look into.
Thank you, Ms. Bichon. Appreciate that. And I know this has been an ongoing discussion and concern, not only from council, but the community at the same time. What you just presented tonight is there's no easy solutions, and, you know, a lot of them are really expensive too, but I really appreciate you reaching out to our neighbors in Richland and Kennewick and just talking to them about what they've done and, you know, the success and failures they've had too. So I know we all have some thoughts on this. Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
Start it off. No, I appreciate the presentation. I like the recommendation. I do have more of like a hybrid one, but one of them in relation to the closure checks, you were saying that we would have to hire perhaps a security firm to do that. And it's $10 per, and there's 7 of them, so $70 a day. I was just wondering why we can't just have our own Pasco Police Department go do that. I don't know when the actual bathrooms close. It just seems like this is something they could do while they're on duty.
Say, when we look at that, absolutely an option. But again, when it comes to the responsive and being able to do that, I think that's where it comes down to the staffing. And can talk with the police department for that. I will say that, you know, our park ranger program had originally intended to have part-time or seasonal as well. We have not seen success in implementing that. I think whether it's the pay or I talked to Kennewick, they had the same kind of issue as well. But I can definitely take note on the other side.
I mean, I don't know at the top of my head how many, what time swing shift starts or how many officers are on that. I mean, but I would think one person could go out and just do all 7 parks and just go check it out, as opposed to having to appropriate more funds for closure checks. So that'd be my suggestion in order to save money. We're already paying officers to go out and patrol the streets. I don't see why they couldn't just stop by and check to see if a park is, you know, if the bathroom's closed and there's no one in there. I'd be entirely in favor of the camera, either have standalone poles or the trailer. If pricing is an issue, perhaps do 2 of them, either 2 trailers at some of our, you know, parks that we're having the issues, and kind of see the same ROI that Richland has. And I've talked with them, and they've seen great success with those things. But like you demonstrated in the staff report, there is cons. That's where my mind is at, and maybe during this pilot program, I would assume that you're going to come back with some type of results and see if it actually does make a difference. So that'd be those are my 3 suggestions that I would consider. So it's more like a hybrid of what you kind of offered. And if we're looking good, maybe perhaps do a 1-year agreement like you're talking about.
Thank you. Councilmember Cotta.
For the LVT cameras, can you speak to the amount of effectiveness that's had?
Yes, so when I spoke to the city of Richland, they did say they basically saw an overnight decline. And they've seen consistent results since they've implemented it. Like I said, when I spoke with Richland, you know, they're interested in keeping the program going. I'm not sure quite yet if they're expanding their program, but they had nothing but positive things to say about it.
I just think what we do has to work. I mean, there's so much deterring people from going to the parks when they're concerned about the bathrooms being available, let alone safe. And so any amount of money that we're going to spend here is going to be an investment in these parks, and we just want to make sure that the bathrooms remain safe and usable. If that requires more money than, if it requires $500,000 a year, then I think it's something we've got to seriously consider. It doesn't look like that's the case, but we don't want to throw money away either. So I don't think that the closure checks alone are going to get it done. And if people are seeing results from the LVT cameras, then I'd like to implement that and see where we go with it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I guess, and just on that a little bit, what is the big difference between the LVT cameras and the other cameras? Is it just because there's a blinking blue light up there, or I mean, is there more to it than that?
There's more to it, but it's better quality. But when you see, I mean, you've seen those cameras in parking lots, right? They're noticeable. And so that alone is a deterrent. The AI technology that comes with it as well that we can implement is it actually can identify, I'm going to use Councilmember Perales, you in the blue hat, and so it can track someone as well. So it can make them a little more uncomfortable, which if you're there doing something wrong, you're more likely to recognize that. But again, if you're there and actually using the park and it's for a good purpose, it can also deter you from wanting to be back at that park.
Okay. It's all really, really good. Councilmember Campos.
Just a quick question. I like the camera's idea too. But other than just being a deterrent, people see a camera and then that deters action. What's the other side? If somebody does do something, it's on camera. Are we looking into, we're going to do an investigation? Is it going to put more work onto our police department? What's that angle?
Yes, so a lot of this would be post-incident. And so we have incidents that happen in our parks or other facilities where we gather the footage and then we provide it either to PD or we're able to connect other elements. So it would be more work, but it would be aligned with, us reporting like another party.
And has Richland seen that increase as well as when they had the cameras? A lot more investigations happening. You know anything about that?
Yeah, when I spoke with them, they indicated that they're doing it all for post-action as well. And they didn't necessarily say it was significantly increased, but they did say that is what they're utilizing the technology for.
City Manager Stewart, good evening.
Probably going to state some of the obvious here, but we're already experiencing vandalism in a lot of our parks, which comes with a cost. I mean, even today we had a sink ripped out of one of our bathrooms. So there's repair costs to this. So while some of these options are expensive, if we can reinvest that money into prevention instead of spending on repairs and then make our bathrooms open and available to the public in a safer way, this isn't all necessarily new cost. I mean, there's going to be additional costs to it, but if we're also accomplishing the purpose of making these more publicly accessible and safer, you have to calculate in the costs that we're already spending on vandalism. And maybe I could have staff prepare what we've already seen to date this year in vandalism costs and maybe what we've seen in the last year or two with regards to these. So you can compare those costs to the costs we're looking at trying to prevent those as well.
Thank you. That's an important point. I mean, I think a lot of us saw those pictures of the city of Richland's bathrooms, not even just getting vandalized, getting destroyed over the weekends. I mean, holy smokes, there's just kicking the walls down and everything like that. So no, I think that's an important point. Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Thank you. Actually, Mr. Stewart was actually asking the question I was going to bring up as far as how much is this really costing the city with the vandalism that's happening. So obviously, would we save money by instituting this versus constantly paying for the damage? I assume that none of the insurance pays any of this, or is it all out of the city's pocket?
So the insurance. There we go. Sorry about that. No, this would not be. It wouldn't hit our deductible necessarily for a single incident.
Okay, and then I guess the last question, like, when people are jamming the door, are they like sleeping in there, or I mean, is there?
I think they do a lot of things in there. So yes, I think they sleep. I think that especially when the weather is a little colder, like over this weekend, they would be there for warmth. And so I generally think that they're utilizing it as more of a shelter.
Okay, so I mean, technically, you couldn't, like, if it's locked, it couldn't be like all power, water off, and then it plays like happy-go-lucky music nonstop, so you would actually be annoyed to be in there. I mean, that you can't do something like that. Would be like a cost, like, it's a small world, just nonstop. It's the person would be so agitated they would want to leave, or is that not an option?
We can look into that, but I know you're on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, so maybe we can talk about that on the next one.
Okay.
Councilmember Cotter.
The 2 rotating security guards option is only about $50,000 more than what we would pay if we implemented the cameras. Would rotating security guards potentially cut down on follow-up costs? I mean, with video, people have to review video. Police are going to get it. They're going to have to look at it. Would rotating security guards potentially cut down on that? And maybe, what do you think?
I think it's an option we can further evaluate. I think with the presence of an individual, when you put someone there and they're there and maybe it's either unpredictable or they're coming and they're actually able to kind of interact with someone. We see this with our park ranger as well. They will move on, or it's less likely they're going to choose to do that damage.
Thank you.
Perfect. Councilmember Perales.
I was just going to throw in, I did notice a lot of our parks, they're not really well lit up. Like over where kids are usually hanging out. I'll say it. My son went to hang out with his cousins like 2 weeks ago, and I go, "Where are they at?" "Well, they're at the park." I'm like, "Well, it's 8:30 at night. Should be at the park." And then someone's going to call the police, and I go, and I'm like, "They're right over there. You can barely see them." And so it's just, that was a comment I was going to throw out tonight. Was I think we need to start reevaluating some of the lighting in our parks so that it would help. If cops are driving by, they can see people. Obviously, they have lights on their vehicles, but just trying to get people to not be in the parks at certain times. So I was just throwing that out there.
And we actually do have a CIP project that is underway. We're working on evaluating which parks, because we hear that as well as park users. I frequent desert dunes, and there's some lighting, but I don't go after dark, and my kids are a little too small for that for right now. But that is something that our parks manager, Patrick Hicks, is working on. And so that is a project in the works.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa.
Yeah, a few comments. When it comes to the closure checks, I think that'd be important to kind of, at the end of the park hour, to be able to confirm that there's absence of individuals in the bathrooms. To kind of add to the lighting issue, perhaps we can begin to install, I believe some restrooms have it, but not all of them, bathroom facilities that have lightings on them, so that when park hours are closed, at least you have a lighting source from the bathroom facility, so you can kind of see that. The other element too is we have to be relational and bring the human aspect to this. Some of these folks are doing this not because, but they just have no other choice. So to try to criminalize this would be not a good step forward. But I think that having some sort of presence, whether it be temporary or rotating, to kind of begin to gauge some of the folks that are continuously using some of these facilities for overnight shelter, stay, or whatnot, give them the appropriate resources that they need. But it's also building relationships, right? You kind of know who's there and who's not. And a lot of it you can stop by proximity. That's one thing that I've learned in the security capacity is once individuals know there's proximity of an individual there, they probably will deter or move elsewhere, as you mentioned. So maybe we can look into that. Those are kind of where I'm leaning for sure. Closure check, I'm not sure that I would want to put that on the Pasco police. Job description, I think that they have other stuff that they should definitely be worrying about, but if they want to definitely take that on, I mean, that could be a conversation, but I know there's other pressing needs when it comes to that. But for sure, closure checks, and then making sure that there's temporary staff rotating between bathrooms probably might be more cost effective for the time, seeing, maybe collect some data, see if it works out. And the cameras, it'd be more of a privacy issue, and also like, who would be responsible if, let's say, there is an incident and it's mainly kids or minors involved? Are the parents being brought into this conversation, or people that don't consent to be recorded, or different things like that, right? Parks are public spaces. So those are some of the things that I would kind of be a little bit hesitant about, or if you can provide some more information, that'd be really helpful.
Hey, can I just ask a clarifying question? When you say privacy, are you can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Who would have access to kind of like who's monitoring the videos, and different things like that? I know that we want to be really transparent, and a lot of our residents, like if I'm going to be recorded, or like where's it going, all those different things that come into play.
Thank you.
Perfect. Before we go on, let's go out to the public here. Speaking of, and in council chamber, would anybody like to speak on this issue? For, against, any thoughts before we provide direction to staff? Would love to hear from anybody in the chambers if you're so inclined to do so. Thank you. Come right up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff, Thomas Granbois, Big Maple Properties. I really want to talk about option number 5. I think 4 is a great initial step to get going, but the investment in infrastructure for cameras would be highly, highly valuable. I've had, now I don't operate as many properties, obviously, as the city does, and I don't have the public records requirements that the city does as well, but my experience is that if you, with our locals who do cause trouble, that if they know that there are cameras, they will stop going there to cause trouble. You can ask any PD that I work with on a regular basis; they will agree that anywhere that I have cameras set up, the traffic is slowed down incredibly. So, investing in the hardware is very, very valuable, as long as there's an action plan to follow up with that footage after the fact. And that's also key, because you have a lot of folks who have cameras set up in the private sector but don't do something about it after the fact when people are up to shenanigans. And if you can upgrade with AI functionality, it's amazing. Now I have facial recognition set up, and it can tell me, yep, person XYZ came by at this time, so now I know that I have them trespass for my property. I can immediately forward that to PD and they can be charged. So things like that are really valuable, and you've noticed that traffic has stopped incredibly. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for your comment. Anybody else in the chamber like to speak on this issue?
Mayor, Council, Dave Cortinas, I think you guys have heard me many times talk about the restrooms, and it's been a big pet peeve to my personally, to mention that our restrooms in our parks are not temporarily. Mrs. Bichon said earlier that these portables are temporarily. Well, temporary to me is 2 or 3 months, not 2 or 3 years. We've seen some of these portables have actually been burnt down, melted completely down at Memorial Park. We lost one. Others, the wind we get strong winds, and those portables I saw one pushed out all the way out to 3rd Street from the one that sits there. Those restrooms are not cleaned enough. Just this weekend, we had that portable bathroom out there at the soccer field. There's over 1,500, 2,000 people out there this weekend. And I took my neighbor's son out there and dropped him off, and I purposely went to that restroom to see where I was dropping him off. There must have been 30 people in line, and I knew several of them. So I walked the kid out to where he was supposed to be with his coach, and I knew some of them. And they said, "Dave, what are you guys going to do about these restrooms? Like if I have anything to do with it, you know?" And they stink. They're terrible. One restroom for 1,500 people that were on that end of the park was just not good. So we really do need to do something about that. And I agree. I think number 5 is a good one. I think we need to spend that $11,000 annually to put cameras up. I'm not concerned about privacy. I think it's good. I think we need to have those type of cameras that tell you, "Hey, guy in the blue hat, get out of here. We don't want you here." you know, I know the ones I have in my house, I have 2 dogs and it says the big brown one's walking through your kitchen, you know, and the other one is, you know, right behind him. So they tell you, and and criminals, they leave. Criminals don't like to be seen on cameras, and they will not be vandalizing our restrooms. They just won't go there if they know there's restrooms.
Okay.
I mean, cameras.
Perfect. No, thank you for your comments, Mr. Cortinas. All right, council. So, what direction do we want to go? Councilmember Cotta.
Did Ms. Pashon have some reluctance about option number 5? Were you saying that they weren't as well?
I can go back and look and talk to our IT staff. I know the ones here at City Hall, they don't have the AI technology component, but I can further evaluate that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm for the cheapest option that's going to work. It's just got to work. And so, yeah, I think option 5. I like option 4 because we've seen it work in Richland. If we can come up with some confidence on option number 5 and it's cheaper, then that's fine.
Thank you. No, and I appreciate that too. I definitely want to save money. Just one question for you, Ms. Pashon, that was brought up by council. As far as that $10,000 monthly for option number 4, the LVT cameras, it was brought up, then we'd have to pay somebody to go through it. Does the company go through it for that price, or how does that work? Or do we have to then manually go through it, or is it AI? If you could talk to us about that.
So when I was speaking on that, if we want to move the unit itself, we have to call ahead and ask them to move it for us.
Oh, no, and I apologize. I meant the footage itself.
We would be going through that ourselves.
So we would still have to go through that. Either way, whether it's City of Pasco or this LVT,
Correct.
we're the ones who have to go through it. But the LVT would possibly have some technology that would aid that process and make it not so cumbersome, I
Correct.
assume. Okay. What do you guys think? Councilmember Cotta.
Option number 4.
So option number 4, so do we want to do, there's some recommendations down here by the staff as far as this this hybrid where potentially we do the closing and there is obviously number 1, implement the closure checks plus the LVT security on the 30-day pilot program. Is that what we're looking at doing, or Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, I would say that's what I would be for. Again, I would look into having PPD do it. I don't think it's nothing they can't do. Believe me, we get complaints. Hey, they're at Lifeline again. Three police officers all talking. I'm just going to say that because those are the kind of criticisms we hear. I think we should look to see if we can save that $15,000 per year by having some of our finest go do that for us. I don't think it's out of the way. I think it's something they can do. But that would be my suggestion for that. Other than that, I'm entirely for number 4.
And I appreciate that. I think it does make quite a statement and set a precedent. Oh my goodness, the police are actually coming around to do that. But at the same time, I think of 911 calls for service and service time and those kinds of things. And they are probably, our most expensive kind of frontline employee. And though it doesn't seem like much, I could easily see it turning into much. And so I think those are some important things to consider. So Councilmember Cotta.
Yeah, I didn't mean to ignore that suggestion. We need to get some feedback from the police department on what they can do. But yeah, them going by and checking periodically, I think would make everybody feel a lot better. As far as these cameras go, if it doesn't work out, or is it a subscription per year? Do we get any money back if we decide not to do these things? Is it, are we just buying equipment?
So the recommendation from staff would be that we lease. So we would enter it into a lease agreement with them, and we can do that for 1 year, test it out, and then you do get a cost benefit generally if you sign a multi-year. You usually lock in your price. But we can evaluate it. Another option too is we could select 2 locations or a location to try the LVT. And then we could see and post signage with the internal cameras and see, we can compare those as well.
One more question on this option number 5, and you're talking about the technology that those cameras currently have. I've got security cameras at my church, for example. And so if there's any movement, I get a blip on the screen where I can go back and see exactly what's going on when something happened or didn't happen. I don't have to go back and review footage. Is that what we would have to be doing if we have that option 5?
I'll have to check in with our IT department. We do have a specific system, and so I'll check in on the functionality of those pieces.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne?
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, are you asking us to, or, I mean, again, we haven't even got how much vandalism happens in a year. So to make a decision, it would be, in my viewpoint, maybe I'm not speaking for the whole council, but it would be good to know how much we're talking about vandalism, how much we're going to save, and then maybe even talk to Pasco Police Department, seeing if this would be like a morale. People would be really pissed. I mean, again, I can't speak for them. It would be nice to actually maybe hear what their thoughts were before we made any decision or committed them to a program. So, to me, I would rather, before I said 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, I would like to know what we're into. I mean, the 11,000 annual on cameras, yeah, it's cheap, but to me, it just seems like we should kind of take a step back, see what the different entities are talking about, and then make a decision. Is that what you're asking, or are you actually asking us for a hard 1, 2, 3, or 5?
I'll take either, because I will come back to council with more information. From this discussion, I think I have generally what I need to be able to provide you guys refined presentation or additional information.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's my thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, anybody have any else? Because I think that's probably where I would be. And I appreciate your comments and actually the city manager's comments as far as, putting a program together like this. There potentially would be offsetting some costs and those, how much. I think, that's really an important component of it too. But I would be for number 1 and number 2, the closure checks and the LVT on at least the 30-day pilot program to at least try it. I think, it's something our citizens expect us to have is available, functioning, clean, safe restrooms for them to use, but it's, going to be at a cost, and that's something, it's going to be one of the finer points of this year as we go into the budget. Anybody have anything else? Okay, Ms. Bashan, you good? Awesome, thank you. Let's move on. Letter C, Downtown Light and Activation Plan. Back to you, Ms. Bashan.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me find my notes for this one. Okay. So Downtown Lighting and Activation Plan. The Downtown Master Plan identified the need for improved lighting to support safety, pedestrian comfort, nighttime economic activity. The Lighting and Activation Plan and Safety Plan was established by creating lighting fixture criteria that was aesthetically pleasing and functional, reflective of Pasco's brand, durable and low maintenance, and energy efficient. It recommends a layered approach. It's kind of a theme I guess I have tonight, consisting of 5 types of lighting. So roadway, pedestrian, storefront, gems, which is considered placemaking, and alleyways. And alleyway is what we're here to talk about tonight. Let's see here. So for the alleyway lighting strategy, the plan identified 2 primary types for alleyway lighting. So fixed units and string lighting. The purpose to improve safety and visibility, discourage unwanted activity, and create opportunities for activation and pedestrian use. I would like to note that not all alleyways in the downtown were included in this plan. And as you see on the slide, the map identifies the alleyways included in the plan, and those corresponding numbers are going to correspond to some slides I'm going to show you about current lighting in those alleyways. This is also attached in your council agenda packet, so if you want to pull that up and follow along. We did secure grant funds for lighting equipment purchase. That deadline is coming up at the end of June, and funds don't have to be necessarily used for this project itself. However, that was our original purpose. We're going to receive $131,000, and it can only be used for equipment. So this doesn't include the installation of the project. Staff used the alleyway labeled number 2 on that chart to work through and coordinate how this might work. And we chose that specifically based on the city owning significant portions of that alleyway with the PSK and UNOS building. With that, we worked through the preferred or the recommended lighting that came from the consultant who developed the plan. It is a proprietary lighting that they suggested. So staff worked through that, looked at how we might be able to implement that. Those are going to require a specific build for each lighting fixture. So we wanted to rule that out. It's very expensive to go with the proposition they provided. So we also looked at economic options. We also coordinated with the PUD and BDI, and also worked with an electrician. So although we've secured these funds, we have been working on this project over the last year to kind of be able to bring this forward. As we've worked on this, we also were provided some drone footage from the police department from early 2026 because things change as things develop. And so I'm going to walk through those different alleyways. So again, this is in your packet, but alleyway 1, this is current condition as of January of 2026. So you can see lighting has been added in that alleyway. This is alleyway 2, so this is the one behind PSK and UNOS, a little darker, going further north. And then we're going to jump over to the other section. Again, a little darker here, very dark, in alleyway number 5. And then this is I want to highlight alleyway 6 because this is actually showcasing 2 government-owned facilities. So you've got the post office on your left-hand side, and you've got the Franklin County building on your right-hand side. So very bright, very illuminated. You can see Peanuts Park North, and then one of our alleyways by Mr. Grambois, and then further north, so darker, and then also dark. So backing up a little, there are a couple of different options to proceed. I know that this has been an item for council discussion for quite some time. I remember being in Denver and being on 16th Street with Councilmember Milne back in, I think it was 2017, with the string lighting. But a couple options, and this is really for council direction we're looking and seeking tonight. Staff is requesting direction on proceed with installation of string lighting in all identified alleyways with the city to maintain them. And one of the reasons we did the string lighting, and that's what we're recommending, is it's lower impact. Those buildings downtown are older, so there is risk associated with us doing anything with them. So whether that's attaching to the building, we do run that risk. We would need to do property coordination. That has not commenced at this point in time. There would be long-term maintenance for the city. This does support the downtown character, but this would require funding for installation. I will say that this project was intended to be in the CIP this year. I was out on leave and I neglected to get that one communicated. So that was omitted by mistake. Another option is to offer a lighting replacement equipment program for property owners who could then install and maintain. This reduces the risk to the city because we're not actually touching the buildings. The property owners would be responsible for doing that. Staff would recommend coupling this with a modification to the code for illumination changes in downtown alleyways. So you're providing an updated code, but you're also providing a program and funding that would go with it. And then any remaining grant funds, because again, those funds are only for equipment, could be used to actually support the park security lighting project that we have underway. The other option, another option would be to actually utilize these funds solely for that park security lighting project. Alternatives, we could limit lighting improvements to certain high priority alleyways. So as we looked at the current conditions, there are alleyways in the downtown that are well illuminated. We could pursue alternative lighting types. So the ones that were recommended by the consultant comes at a higher cost and complexity, or take no action. So staff is here for any questions, but I'm sure there's feedback and discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Bashan. Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, I like the string lighting because I thought it looked beautiful. Anything we could do to increase the attractiveness of downtown Pasco, I'm all for. I would recommend that, again, depending on how much it all costs, but go with the city putting up the lights. I mean, I don't think any of those business owners in downtown Pasco have extra money for themselves to maintain, put up stuff. So I would just say if it all be, let's try to make Pasco even safer, especially the downtown, with the lights, because again, you're gonna have less people doing stuff they shouldn't or sleeping when the thing is lit up like a Christmas tree. So that's that would be my direction. I think the string lights look pretty and they're nice, and I'm sure they should be a lot more affordable than some of the other lights.
Clarifying question. So string lights, would your preference be that, so there's two options for installation. You could do the in-house approach, would need to be phased, staffing wise and working through the coordination with those property owners. Or would you rather go with get it all done at one time and have a contractor be working to get the property owner consent? I say that knowing that there is a significant difference in cost. So we're estimating about $218,000 to do all at once through a contractor, or roughly $86,000 to do as a phased approach in-house.
Considering the budget restraints, I would be more for the in-house. I mean, I'd like to see it all done at once. Sometimes that is nice, and it would bring probably extra business to the downtown. But if we're where we are at budget, I guess I would be at the moment leaning for the 86 in-house. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Campos.
Just to piggyback off of that, and then I'll give my input. When you say phase, how long are we talking here?
I'd say probably a year to 2 years. You'd work on each alleyway, make sure we'd be working to get property consent as we go. And then we'd build it into our facilities team.
Okay. In talks with downtown business, they were ready to go to do it on their own. Not I'm saying everyone, but, I was very impressed with them. They really want to see lighting down there. And they were ready to do it. Really, the only thing that was really stopping them was the code. And so they were ready to do that. However, I agree. I don't think that responsibility should fall upon them to do that. So I would love to see that in-house. But it's hard because I would love to see it much faster than 2 years. I think that is just way too long. I think downtown has been waiting and being very patient with the city and getting that. And so, but if that's what it is, then I guess we have to figure that out. But my suggestion would be to do with the recommendation of just doing it in-house and getting that lighting in. But like I said, the downtown business owners, they want it now, and they're ready to roll.
Awesome, I like it. Thank you, Councilmember Figueroa.
Just to have some clarifying, on the recommendation, when you say offer lighting replacement equipment to the property owners, what does that mean and what does that process look like?
That would be us creating a program and then publishing that, or making sure that we communicate and work with the property owners downtown of saying, hey, there is funding available. Basically, it'd be kind of like a grant program. So, either we have, these set of lighting. If you would like it, you have to fill out an application, and then we would purchase it and provide it to them. And then they would be responsible for the installation.
Okay. And also to reiterate, I also believe there has to be some sort of ownership on both sides, on the stakeholders, right? Property owners in the city. Some of the conversations, business owners are ready to go. Could there be like a hybrid of those who are ready and can move forward, allowing them with the proper support of the modification to the PMC? And I mean, knowing the culture in downtown with small business owners, I mean, they're good neighbors. They're not going to let those folks that probably don't have the resources or aren't able to at the moment. I'm sure we can all collectively come together and make it all happen because like 2 years, it is a little too extended at this point. And so these are kind of steps that we do have to ensure signs of good faith that we want to help revitalize and reactivate downtown. So maybe, I don't know, a hybrid approach of that we can work together collaboratively. I don't want to hinder those that are ready to go to move forward. But if there's something that would work, and also want to help the city not be too much liable for some of these things. So how do we make it cost effective and make sure that we can do whatever we can to help them out?
Thank you. And before I go down there, just kind of a follow-up comment just on that specific thing. You got me thinking, Councilmember Figueroa, that, perhaps, I don't know how we'd make it fair, but I definitely like the in-house at 86,000 versus 217,000, but over a couple of years. But could we, those businesses and property owners that are ready and want to do it now, could we buy it for those and let them go and just tell everybody else it's going to be, well, we'll get to you as soon as you can. But, do we do a lottery about which alleys we do first? And, there would be a component of that where we'd want to make sure it's fair and everything like that. But I think that's kind of a really good idea. I started to hear fleshed out there. Just those that are ready to go, if we could provide it and let them do it, according to, I think it was option 3 back up there. That sounds really at least good to me, 1 of 7. But, the rest of the in-house string lighting. And I think the other thing at that point would maybe be the aesthetics, because the lights we would be providing and buying and providing, would those not necessarily be string lights or just other style of lights? And I don't know if we want to go every other alley. I think we'd want some kind of cohesive continuity.
So when it comes to if we did a program, we would provide an option where it would be, more of the flood lighting.
Yeah.
And then, if an entire alleyway decides, they would rather the string lights go that route. So there's options.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I would look to use the grant money to get equipment so that we could do it ourselves and save that cost. Perhaps a code change to allow business owners to also put more lighting if they so choose. I think more lighting's better. I didn't know our downtown looked like North Korea until tonight, I guess. But, if we have business owners who want to put in more lighting, I think we should change the code to allow that. I think 1 to 2 years of the installations, downtown's waiting along enough, but if we do it in-house and it saves that amount of money, then I think that'd be advantageous. Like you indicated, require participation agreements. I think that would be a good thing to do to get, and that's obviously why it's 1 or 2 years. And then if it's a lottery or just install the more troubled alleyways, that would be my preferred, if we, again, use the grant for all the equipment and we do it ourselves with the string lighting, like Mayor Pro Tem Melanie said. So those are my recommendations.
Thank you. Councilmember Cotta.
Do we have an idea of what the cost would be to the businesses if we supplied the lights, but they did install the lights?
I don't have that. Each one is going to be unique. So whether that's just a quick replacement or if the fixture in which that we're providing is going to require additional electrical work, it'll be dependent on each location.
Okay. Thank you. City Manager Stewart, then we'll go to the chamber.
Just a couple of things to consider here is based off of experience and conversations of lighting downtown and advice of attorneys in the past. I would recommend consideration of providing the grant and then allowing the property owners to install this on their own and maybe adjusting the code that allows them to span the public space. There are some liability and installation concerns, as I've been advised by attorneys in previous communities. You're attaching public infrastructure to a private building. And how do you do that? And in the past, I've also seen times that we do this in good faith, and then as soon as something goes wrong with the building, the city receives a claim that we damaged their building in the process of installation. And so there is some risk and liability with the city proceeding and installing public infrastructure on private buildings. And so I would advise caution on that, especially with some of these older buildings. You drill a hole, now they claim that they have a leak in their wall that they didn't have before, and the only thing that's changed is the city installing this infrastructure on their building. The other concern here is where do you get power and who's paying the bill for it? So, you know, what outlet are you plugging into? Is that already on a city paid for power account? Or are we plugging into a plug on the private business owner's property to get the power to light those lights? And then how do you negotiate the cost of that? Is the property owner paying for that? Is the city paying for that? You just run into a lot of complications with that. So I think the easier one is to provide the grant, make it easier for the property owners to install this on their own, and provide these amenities downtown, because that removes a lot of risk and liability from the city going forward, based off of my experience in previous conversations.
Thanks. I think those are important considerations for us. And with that, let's move on to the chamber. Anybody in the council chamber want to speak to this issue? I know it's been an important issue and would love to get your comments on it. Knew I could call you out. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much again, Mayor, Council, and City staff. Thomas Grandbois, Big Maple Properties, 108 North 4th Avenue. And thank you, Ms. Michon, for the shout out there. My property is one of those that was highlighted there. The string lights were originally put up as a part of a pilot program to try the string lights. That was grant funded. The string lights came down, but the anchors were still there. So we just used the same permit and strung them up ourselves. So the permitting process isn't overly challenging if you have the right infrastructure. To answer your question about costs, you know, most of our buildings have rear exits, and they have the light or the electrical there, so it'd be just installing wall packs, which shouldn't be too hard, but you know, every penny counts, right? I know that in Carl's Alley, on his building, it cost, I think it was about $2,000 for the electrician to come in and to wire everything, put conduit up, and install the wall packs, including, so it's again, it's not free, but it's not terribly high, right? And yeah, any support that we can get from the city is greatly appreciated. I know people complain about things moving the speed of government, but that those are people who haven't had to understand all the challenges, like the city manager mentioned, hey, we have to dot all our I's and cross all our T's. So I think that the ability to get the equipment out as soon as possible, and then take a look at maybe string lights or some more beautification versus security in the long run would be really great. I really appreciate city staff's time on this, and I know my neighbors are really excited and chomping at the bit, because every penny they can save, even just on hardware, is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Grambois. Before you run away, I know this isn't meant to be a time back and forth, but since you're on the pilot program in there, I just think about the wind here, and I know they're somewhat protected between, you know, the buildings, and I know each direction probably makes a difference. Has there been any issue with that, with, you know, our Tri-City winds we get around here that you've noticed?
Absolutely none. So now they were installed professionally, the anchors were in the building, right? So if you have somebody up there putting something up with command hooks, it's not going to meet that. But as a part of the permitting process that I went through, I had to show the plan, the anchors, talk about the tensile strength of the supportive wires. A lot of this stuff is covered in the electrical code as well. And we had to put in safety things like emergency pulls, so that if there's a fire on top, there are strings that you can pull, and the section will just fall down, right?
No, that's
So
important
it's we're not inventing the wheel here. It's laid out. It's not always easy to go through the process, but it has been laid out, so it's more copy and paste. Now, talking about code, I think that, in my opinion, it would be worthwhile to look at the code as a bit more of a stick and make it a requirement that alleys hit a certain lumen within a certain distance. I'm sure that can be, I don't know if that's a standard, and then say, hey, here's the stick, and here's the carrot now. Here are your lights.
Yep. No,
now you put them up, right? So it really takes away that argument of, well, you know, I just don't have the money to go and do this, right? But now you kind of have to, and the challenge about going and doing something down an alley is a lot of our buildings aren't high enough to allow peak to peak because of garbage truck requirements. That's one thing that we had to make clear, talking with BDI. So that's one thing as well that you want to keep in mind.
Okay, no, thanks. I appreciate the extra testimony at my request. Just,
Hey,
since you've been through and have them up already.
And the other trick is that we have a lot of buildings that are owned by a lot of individuals who are quite often absentee landlords. So then you have the issue of trying to, you know, herd the cats between landlords and tenants in the city. It's a lot of moving parts. So I think that the very first thing to get the equipment out in the hands of people would be great.
Understand. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Anybody else in the chamber like to speak on this issue? Yes, sir. Step right on up. Name and city or county for the record, please.
Hi there, Mayor, City Council. My name is Pedro Perez with Nopaleros Entertainment. My alley is number 5. I'm one of the building owners. There it is. And yeah, we have a lot of folks that end up like sleeping in that alley, and so I think having the lighting there would really be helpful. I really like the idea of also the beautification of it, having the string lights. I mean, when I go to throw trash there, I see Thomas's alley that has a string light. It looks really beautiful, looks really nice. And so that's one of the ideas that we were thinking about for us as well. Just trying to talk with the neighbor next door of how we would do that. And then again, with the code. So I think that I think we would really appreciate that kind of like support from the city. Just talking to other like business owners as well, or property owners. Some of them, these last year, it hasn't been the best sales in downtown Pasco, right? There hasn't been a lot of like money coming in, and so a lot of them are struggling, and I can only imagine that it might be a little bit more difficult for some of them to actually like invest in some of this. So support would also be would be great.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for your
again.
comments. Appreciate it. Anybody else in the chamber want to comment on this issue?
Did you want to ask a question?
No,
Oh.
I just had a question.
Okay, yeah, let's finish with our chamber comments, then we're gonna finish this up. Thank you.
Yeah, Dave Cortinas with LBA, Mayor and council members. I think we need to spend the money and get the equipment and get it here as soon as possible. There's one thing that hasn't been brought to your attention by the council members or by the staff is that Main Street program, which the LBA already applied for. We should be an associate member in August, and there's a lot of programs and funds to be able to be funneled to the LBA and be able to help out with these types of projects. If you go over to Walla Walla and look at Walla Walla, all the string lighting that they use, it all goes through the Main Street program. And the Walla Walla Foundation Association, they work with the property owners and avoids all these headaches of, who gets blamed for. Then they work with the Pacific Power, and we would work with the Franklin PUD in lighting programs and these types of things. So Mike has already looked into a lot of this stuff and talked with the Main Street program. And Mike also worked with the Franklin PUD at one time, so he knows about those types of programs, how we can get funds for the property owners and be able to pay the cost for some of these bills that the administrator talked about. So there's things that we are already working on and looking at. We just need to get so it becomes a win-win situation when the city has some input, when the property owners has an input, the LBA has an input in getting funds and through the Main Street program, and then also being able to take a lead on a lot of this stuff and being able to work with the property owners. What happens with the property owners, you give the lights to the property owners, and and Mike was explaining to me, you have some lights that are way high, other ones are lower, some aren't hanging right, other ones are hanging different ways. It just becomes a mess. But I agree with Mr. Campos that downtown it's time that we get to working on these things and these projects because the property owners want it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. And yeah, I think the continuity to write something into that would be an important aspect of that. Mr. Hernandez.
So is the city only providing the lights and that's it, not the equipment to hang up the lights or everything that comes with it?
So the original plan, as developed, was that the city would purchase and install, but the maintenance would be with the property owner. With staff's recommendation on the string lighting, that lowers the maintenance. The city would look to source where they can a city electrical source, and so what we're recommending is if you would like to do the lighting, we would propose the string lighting so it's cohesive, and then we would do the installation.
Councilmember Perales.
Okay, appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm actually, I forgot to say a couple things earlier, and Mr. Stewart reminded me. Yeah, I mean, so in that participation agreement, we would put in there language where the building owner can't sue the city because we're going to install the overhead lights, and then they would have to pay for the electrical charges. I think there needs to be just, some buy-in from them, and then maintenance would also be on them. So, I mean, we could, in that agreement, put wording in there so that we're not on the hook for anything. And like Mr. Catina's saying, yeah, I would hate to have them do it, and then the lighting's kind of, I want it to be kind of homogeneous down there, and I know, again, we should use these funds right now to do the overhead lighting, and like the city should just install it ourselves, because if not, they could get a contractor, then they're putting out costs, because they probably won't be able to do it and stuff, so that's just my 2 cents, but I think a participation agreement of that sort would kind of be a way to address the things that Mr. Harold was talking about.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mill.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Bashan, could like the city put up like a pole so the lights wouldn't be actually attached to the building, so there wouldn't be any issues where you actually had a pole right behind the building where it was, like a foot or so off, and then everything was uniform, and I mean, isn't that an option?
I would love for Director Sarah to be here, because those alleyways are already very tight. And so if you add that additionally, I think you're going to have even more challenges with BDI and our state, like our contractors. I don't know if maybe Deputy City Manager Sigdal, she's got her finger up, so I think she's got a comment.
Director Sarah is online, so Maria, if you're able to make a comment.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the sound was cutting up a little bit, so I understand there was a request for maybe bundling some of the activities. Is that correct?
My question was, could we, like in the alleyway, put like a pole that would say like a foot out from the building, and then have it, say if it was 12 feet high or whatever, and then all the lights would attach to those different poles, so that way, if some damage happened to the building, say there was water leakage, they couldn't say it's the city's fault for attaching lights. It was only just attached to the poles, so that you wouldn't have even the property owners having to, sign some agreement. So.
Yes, so there are most of the alleyways are pretty tight in width, and so that presents a little bit of a challenge. And where we want to be super careful is that we leave enough clearance for safe use by BDI with their bigger trucks as they are collecting trash. And so we did discuss that internally, and we thought in some cases it may work, but there's many occasions where it's actually very, very tight, just to add that pole. And then, of course, as you're digging to install the pole and maybe, build a foundation, or if it's direct bury, then you have also the issue that you may be dislodging or creating voids next to the foundations of those buildings. And as we have learned through many of our projects, there's lots of unknowns there. So touching areas where we need to dig and create new installations that go in the ground tends to be a little bit of a Pandora box.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. I would say that, obviously the more lighting we had could reduce costs in other aspects for the city of Pasco, such as having to clean up a homeless area. I mean, there is benefit costs, so that's why I would advocate, like say, for instance, if we did with the string lighting, that the city pay for it. I mean, again, that would be a thing that we're doing to help improve the downtown. That's my 2 cents. And then also I would say, like on string lighting, I have string lighting in my house, and they're solid bulbs, so somebody can't just throw a rock and break the thing. I mean, they're solid, and they hardly cost anything for string lighting as far as on an electrical bill. So it's not like we're having these big, huge spotlights going up and down. And then on a third note, I could change the colors on my lights, and that would be beautiful if you had like Valentine's and you could change all the lights to pink, or March and green or whatever. I'm just saying, or 4th of July, it is possible. Not saying that we have to do that, but there is kind of cool concepts to make Pasco even more cool, viable place if you're wanting to go have a glass of wine in downtown Pasco, and it was lit up as far as the different seasons. So just my 2 cents on all that.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so we need to bring this to a close. Final options. I guess what I'm hearing the most of is obviously we all want lights down there. I mean, that's really, really important. Basically, I guess what I'm hearing is do we buy them and turn them over to the building owners and landowners and businesses with some constraints of height and time and illumination and all those things? Or do we, as Mr. Stewart said, put, city-owned property onto private property and, work through all that? And then the option of that is either have a contractor do it now at $218,000 or over the next 2 years at $86,000, plus, of course, the cost of the lights. What do you guys think? Mr. Cobb?
Yeah, I'd like to see a grant program where we support them with providing lights, but they take care of the installation and the maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Milton?
I would say that we put it up, we obviously buy the lights, put it up, and again, you could have owners that have them are, not even there, and they could take forever, and so you have other people that want the lights, but they're not even being put up, so just, maybe they have to maintain them, but I would just say, just do it for our city.
Thank you. Mr. Perales?
Use the grant money to buy the equipment. We install ourselves, require participation agreements with everything I said earlier, and that's it.
Anybody else?
I just have a question. Is that feasible? Is that good? How would that look with liability for the city? And I definitely like your expertise, Mr. Stewart.
Are you what in particular are you talking about is feasible?
If we install ourselves with those stipulations of,
it's possible. I'm not going to say it's not, and many of your downtown business owners or property owners would probably agree with that. Anytime you introduce a legal contract into it, you're complicating it and potentially decreasing participation, right? Some of these property owners may go and talk with their own attorney, and their attorney may advise them not to sign the agreement with the city because of the potential damages that could come. You do have absentee property owners. We don't have the right to install a proper city-owned infrastructure on a building if they're an absentee property owner and not responding. So then you're going to have potentially one property owner holding up 6, 7 other willing property owners because we can't get the one to agree. So those are some of the challenges that you run into with that, in my experience, on those conversations. While we're all excited about this, not every property owner necessarily may want these lights in their alley, and they're not going to agree to participate. So you run into those challenges. Versus if you do the grant program, they can do it one by one. You get the property owners, you install them where the property owners agree, you keep it moving forward, and you keep out some of those legal complications that come with that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where my heart is, of reducing liability for the city, and also I think that, if the business owners and property owners and all those can get together and begin to kind of work on them on their own, I think we don't want city government kind of saying this is what we're going to do for you, whether you want it or not. I think if they want a choice and they have that right to do so, to buy in or not opt in, but that should be a conversation that downtown business owners and property building owners and all that stuff should have amongst themselves. But we're providing some of those resources of providing the lighting equipment, and hopefully as they see the beautifying, as some of the alleyways have been seen looking great, more people are going to want to buy into it and do it themselves. So I think that's part of the ownership that comes with it.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's where I'm at, Councilmember Figueroa. Yes, let's buy it with the grant program. Let's make it easy. Let's set some height requirements so we do get that uniformity throughout the downtown. But at this point, you guys, I know we don't take official votes tonight, but we're pretty split on this. We got to come to 4 head nods and give staff some direction here at some point. Councilmember Hernandez?
I thought the city should, you could generally speak to everybody and see where they're at. Go to the property owner, see if there is interest in the city doing it, and it would just be, like Melanie said, the city do it, and it'll just be uniform, it'll be done. And I do understand the whole legal situation, but I think the city should do it.
Okay. Councilmember Campos.
Yeah, I'm okay with the grant one. I think, for those that are ready to roll, let's do it. I think it's just a good way, especially when we're talking about liability and stuff. So I'm in favor of the grant.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
I was going to say, if we're going to talk about liability, then maybe our staff attorney that we're paying money every hour should tell us the liability and maybe provide us more with that, because I don't want to go off of just an opinion, but I think we should probably have that in front of us of maybe some examples, but that'd just be my opinion.
Yeah, I'd be happy. We can definitely hear from our legal counsel to, the liability aspect or the history, or if he's ever had others. I mean, I think there's a certain amount whenever we do attach something to somebody else. Of course, there's, some level of liability, and, how much that is or how common or when it comes up. I know lawyers usually play it pretty safe, but yeah, no, that's fine. If we want to, if our legal counsel's online wants to weigh in, that would be fine.
So we do have our attorney on.
Yep.
So Mayor, this can oftentimes be complicated for what you're actually, I think as your conversation puts in here, what you're putting on to somebody's property. And so this is something that I can take back to Kenny, and we can provide kind of a more full evaluation to kind of give you this information to help you with your decision. But at the moment, what I would say is that I don't necessarily have something in front of me that says, in this specific situation, we are putting these specific items on this particular property, or in this situation, what your liability is going to be. But again, we're happy to bring that information back to the council for further consideration.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like we're pretty split. I hear I'm sensing 3-3, and Mr. Hernandez wants to go talk to the business owners some more.
I mean, the city can.
Well, I meant, yes, on behalf of us, not you personally, no. Councilmember Cotta.
Yeah, I am for the grant. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just the only issue is, I mean, if the city does take it up, then we're waiting for those absentee property building owners who have a history, right, of being absentee for a long time, and so then we kind of stop this process of moving forward, right? I mean, if folks are ready to go and we can give them some of the tools to take it upon themselves, I think that kind of pushes it forward to what our goal is. I want to see this as soon as possible because I think that downtown has waited long enough. So that's kind of the issue that kind of is at play at this point.
Okay, thank you.
We got to make an ordinance that brings them in. I mean, that's the caveat there. So as long as we add that, we're good.
I think we have 4, Ms. Basham, that would be for the grant program and just getting this going and buying them, and
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Thank you. Let's move on. Still got a lot of letters to go here, yes. Moving on, letter D, commercial land capacity review, and this is Miss Matson, who I believe is online. Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have a workshop discussion for you related to commercial land capacity, or put another way, how much room we have in the city of Pasco for commercial uses. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here is an overview of the presentation, and I know we've had a long night, so I'll try and be quick and concise here. We are going to review the commercial land capacity numbers, so how much room we have in Pasco for this type of use, and then I'll tie it into our job growth and current amendment requests for the comprehensive plan. And just to explain that in a little more detail, during the periodic update, which is what we are in the middle of right now, updating our comprehensive plan, the city is not obligated to take in any comprehensive plan amendment requests from the private parties or the applicants or general public. We have in our code that we do not accept those applications. We do process rezones, which if you recall back a couple months ago where I did a land use presentation to the group, there's there's two different layers of land use in Pasco. So you have the comprehensive plan or the land use layer, and that designates different uses throughout town. And then that's the umbrella, and underneath it are different zones that can go under each land use. So we are not taking any formal land use applications in at this time. However, there are a number of applicants who have requested that we consider including their changes in this comprehensive plan update. And what I've told applicants so far is, you can always ask, why don't you send me what you're wanting to do? And if it aligns with some of the things the city is already doing in the update, we would be happy to roll it in with the larger update. If it's something that the city isn't in agreement with, and I mean like city staff, if it's not coinciding with what we are doing for the comprehensive plan, we will suggest to them that they apply next year. And so what I've noticed since I've been here is there's quite a few applicants, as council has seen, wanting to do two primary type of changes. One is to upzone, so going from a lower density to a higher density. And I believe once middle housing is in place, a lot of the zones will start looking the same. So that might be a moot point at some point. And I'm happy to describe that to council at another workshop. The other item I'm seeing a lot of requests come through is applicants wanting to convert their land that they own from a commercial zone or land use to a residential zone or land use. And that is because residential right now is marketable, and it does pencil easier than commercial. Brick and mortar is very expensive, and there's a lot of commercial uses that have switched to online. So I am not too thick to understand why they would want to do that as a property owner. I may want to do that too if I was personally looking at a property and investment. The problem that we are facing now as a city, and an issue that I feel is important to bring up to council, is what is our vision for Pasco? And we have talked about this with commercial and economic development. Do we want Pasco to be a bedroom community, or a great place to live and have an industrial job but nowhere to shop? So these are key things I want to talk to council about, because we do keep getting requests from landowners. And I just want to make sure my direction is aligned with council, planning commission, and the city manager's office as I speak to these individuals. And I'll show you some information throughout the presentation related to this, and then end with some questions for you to think about. Next slide, please. And I've probably covered the next few slides, but we'll go to slide 3 and see what we have. Yeah, no formal action today. I touched that, and then you can, next slide. Next slide. So currently, this is a snapshot of what we have in the entire city of Pasco. There's 532 acres of vacant commercial land, and 443 acres is, in addition to that, considered underutilized. And with our land capacity analysis, we have a total of 7,800 commercial jobs supported with our existing land. And we have an estimate of 13,000 jobs that Pasco needs to accommodate in the next 20 years. Next slide, please. So the current surplus of commercial, if you were to just look at what we have now, and a technical surplus as it relates to just job capacity, is 140 acres. And this is a very sensitive number. The 140 acres is based on commercial land use and mixed use land use. And some of our newer council members may not know this, but the mixed use designation outside of the Broadmoor area in the city actually allows for either residential or commercial. So it, to me, is arguably a residential zone if that's what people want to build, or it can be commercial if they want to build commercial, but it does not require a true mix of mixed use unless it's in the Broadmoor area. So this area is subject to change. And just a quick breakdown of Pasco versus other cities. There's a table in the packet that shows this breakdown, which I found interesting. So I thought Pasco had a lot less commercial land than our neighbors, just intuitively, and being in the area for a year. Then looking at it, Pasco, if you divide Pasco up into certain percentages, we have 10% commercial land. If you compare that to Kennewick, they have 12. Richland has 9, and Wenatchee has 8. West Richland has 9.5. So as far as the commercial capacity we have in the city right now, all of the areas zoned red on the land use map. We compare pretty well with the other cities. And one of the other areas we appear to be excelling in is industrial. So 37% of our city is industrial based, which is awesome because it provides a great variety of jobs for the community. There's a range of, lower wage jobs all the way up to higher wage jobs. So Pasco has a very robust industrial center, which I think puts us apart from our other friends in the Tri-Cities area. So we have 37% compared to Kennewick, 5%. Richland is 22%, which is the second highest city in this area. And then West Richland has less than 1%. And then residential is a range of 46 to 74% throughout the cities. And then open space is pretty small. So the amount of commercial land we have now, I think, suits us well for comparison to the other cities. Now, we're not completely built out if you compare to the other cities. We have that space, but as you know, Broadmoor is a big blank canvas for us, and we have lots of space to develop commercial. So next slide, please. And this is what I mentioned earlier. We have 30 plus amendment requests from applicants, and we could have just said, no, don't send them, wait till next year. But out of the goodness of our heart, we said, applicants, you can send us what you are wanting to do just so we can kind of see what's coming down the pipeline. And I would say about a third of them were requests to go from commercial zoning to residential zoning. And if we did accept all of those changes, we don't have to do anything this year, but if we did accept those changes, we could swing to not having enough commercial to sustain the job growth in our land capacity analysis. Next slide, please. So just in simple terms, we have a very small buffer of commercial land today in Pasco, is what I'm trying to say, in the most simple way. And if we do allow these conversions, which on a case-by-case basis, like especially for a city that may want to be developer friendly and a department that wants to be developer friendly, such as CED, there is an argument to be made, for these individual property owners. They want to convert it so they can sell it and they want to make money off the property. But, we're tasked at looking at these things from all different angles at the city level. What's best for our city long-term? Do we want short-term game, more residential units, or do we want to hold out knowing that, yeah, it will be a little painful to tell people no, and they need to sit on these properties for maybe 10, 20, 30 years. But in the long term, is that what is better for the community in Pasco as a whole? And I believe some of you who have maybe been here longer than me, you can maybe see this happening in Kennewick. There was a lot of land in Kennewick that hasn't been developed, for years and years and years, and you're just now seeing it come to fruition. Well, if Kennewick decided to rezone those properties years ago at request of applicants, they would have made the applicants happy at the time, but they would not see the robust commercial that they're seeing being constructed. So I view it like that, where you're planning ahead. And that's what city planning is, looking 100 years ahead, 20 years ahead, 200 years ahead, and looking at what's good for the community over the long term. Next slide, please. So long-term impacts, and we've talked about economic development in the city, but we do want to maintain commercial land so that people have somewhere to live and work, which there's plenty of jobs in the industrial sector, but there's also the commercial component where people will shop and spend their money. If we do lose that, then we lose opportunity to have people spend their money in Pasco. They will be going to other cities over time to spend their money. Next slide, please. Long-term impacts are listed here on the screen. The more commercial you lose, the further people have to drive to go get their gallon of milk and, pair of jeans and other necessities throughout the city. Next slide, please. Yeah, what we're seeing, I've mentioned this before, residential is out competing commercial right now for making it pencil for developments. Next slide, please. So question for you tonight, and I know this is a loaded question, but I would really appreciate some guidance. I feel like since I've arrived here, I haven't had good guidance because I haven't really asked this group yet, and we've been working through the comprehensive plan. I intend to ask Planning Commission this question as well, But I would appreciate, and you don't have to answer all of these questions individually or get too much into the weeds. I just would like to hear your feedback on what you feel on commercial requests. So when people come in, I want to save applicants time and be transparent and honest with them when they come in instead of saying, let's take it through and see what they say. I don't think that's fair to them. I'd like to tell them when they come in, we have these numbers in Pasco for commercial. We really can't lose anymore. As a citywide policy, we'd like to, turn away any of these requests. If there's a very compelling request, maybe we require them to replace like for like. But as a city policy, it would be helpful if I heard, we are okay losing commercial over time, or we are not okay with it. And then I can build policies in the comprehensive plan around it and then alert applicants so that they don't, spend time and money on these applications. And then by the time it gets to the hearing examiner or council, they're not let down by the process. So those are my questions tonight. Next slide has a list of alternatives. We can, if you'd like, just completely delay this topic until next year and get through the comprehensive plan. And I can just, as an interim step, tell everyone no conversions until we talk about it next year. Or we can allow conversions. We can review each case by case or require commercial land replacement. I think that based on our numbers, since we have 10% commercial and compared to our neighbors who are at 12, 9, and 8, that it would be not a good idea from a city land use planning standpoint to lose more commercial land at this point. I would even argue we need more, but that is a really hard sell to convert existing residential to commercial. So next slide is staff's recommendation for the group. I'm happy to hear feedback and I'd appreciate any guidance you have on this topic and know that we'll bring this back to you near the end of the year with the comprehensive plan update. And I'll be sure and highlight this to the group then as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manson. Questions, Mr. Cotton?
I think we need to preserve these key commercial corridors, and I like the ideas that were just given to us in regard to a criteria for establishing that. I'm also would be okay if we wanted to table it all until after we go through the planning process, and that would give us all a chance to really dial this in, so we really know exactly how we want to go about doing it. That would table it in the meantime, but preserving those commercial corridors, I think, is really important.
Thank you, Councilmember Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor. I would be in favor of doing it a case by case basis, but I did send out some policy planks that I think they're more like goals that you probably incorporate into our comprehensive plan. But yeah, we shouldn't be looking to convert at this time any land that's deemed commercial to residential. As you indicated, that number is very sensitive, and I'm getting tired of seeing people having to go to Richland and Kennewick to go spend their money. We need to be looking at everything we can do to preserve this land. So just a couple things that I sent out, and I'll send this to you, Director Mattson. Yeah, change your name. I think we should adopt a no net loss policy. And I also like what you said earlier with the land swap. I think we should make conversions the exception, not the rule, because we really got to start looking at it, really robust economic development lens. So I would say to those applicants, if they're in certain areas, maybe across the city, and if they are in certain areas that we deem commercial, then it would essentially just be a no. I think we have to take a hard stand with this residential outcompetes commercial, because we need to get more sales tax. I mean, City of Kennewick's killing it. Richland's right behind them. I want to see us go from $20 million in sales tax to that 30, like Kennewick's doing. That should be our vision, or that, to increase the sales tax so we're not having to raise property taxes, utility taxes, and so forth. I'll send all these ones in the interest of time, but I think we can work on this right now, and at least give you direction. But that, from me, my direction would be those 30 applications. It should just be on a case by case basis. with some of the things I've talked about, if it touches some of these things, then it probably won't be a go, or it shouldn't be a go from a city standpoint. Like you said, we can't lose it, and if we do that right now, we're already in the negative. So why would we do that? So those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I believe we should save commercial land, so I'm fine with the staff recommendations. Seems good to me.
Thank you, Councilmember Campos.
Yeah, just to echo everyone else, I agree. I think our commercial is very, very essential to our city right now. I think that's just not only from the council side or staff, but even from our residents. You hear it time again. I know developers don't like to hear this, but residents are saying, like, stop building houses. We don't want any more houses. We want businesses. And so I think everyone in agreement here is in our city. We want commercial. We want to keep it. And so if there is a specific case that wants to do it, then we definitely have to do a swap because we have to make sure that we do maintain our commercial.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Hernandez.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. We should conserve for commercial land, and we can table it to next year, like Councilman Carter said. I'm okay with that as well.
Okay. No, thank you. Yeah, and I guess mine is along. I think Councilmember Perales brought up an excellent point as far as sales tax. If there's anything the deputy city manager has taught me since being here, is this city is very sales tax. I guess just to the vitality and just the viability of this city, we have to have sales tax. And I think Councilmember Perales brought up some other points that by not having the sales tax of our neighbors across the big waterway there, that it puts us kind of in a precarious spot. I mean, our cities expect a basic level of city services, and we struggle to provide those in part because we fall so far behind in our sales tax revenue. At the same time, I'm a big advocate of private property rights, and people should be able to do what they can within reason with their own property. But at the same, I've just looked at this graph that was provided. I appreciate that, Ms. Matson, showing the percentages. I've just kind of been staring at that the whole time, and I'm kind of agreeing with all the rest of the council members that if there is the rare I guess time that we do give up some commercial property, that there is some type of land swap to preserve that. And you made a very compelling case tonight, ma'am, that if anything, we do need more commercial space than we have now. So with that, let's open up the chamber. Anybody in council chamber like to speak on this issue? Going once, going twice. Does that work for you, Ms. Matson? Was that enough direction from us?
Yes, plenty of direction. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Letter E, this is quasi judicial, an ordinance introduction of quasi judicial item amending the zoning classification of certain real property located north of Regley Drive, south of Sanford Parkway, west of Road 68, and east of Road 76 in Pasco, Franklin County, Washington, from C1 and R4 to mixed use. And this is Z 2026-001. And not sure if our legal counsel wants to do his quasi judicial spiel before we go right back to you, Ms. Matson.
Mr. Mayor, that was our plan here. So good evening, council. You've probably heard this before, and of course you all had a quasi judicial hearing last week. So this should hopefully be at this point old form for everyone. But it's just a reminder in a quasi judicial proceeding that what is happening is that the council is defining the legal rights, duties, privileges of the specific parties that are involved. And because of that, you are taking off your legislative hat, you're putting on your judicial hat, and the appearance of fairness doctrine applies, meaning that the hearing or proceeding must be fair in all three respects: form, substance, and appearance. Just like other matters that have come before you, this is a quasi-judicial matter that's already gone in front of the hearing examiner, as the hearing examiner has already provided a recommendation. And at this point, you are going to be having a closed record proceeding, meaning that the information in front of you will be the information that was in front of the hearing examiner. You will not be allowed to include any new information. You won't be able to take any testimony from any witnesses who didn't testify in front of the hearing examiner. Prior to commencing deliberations on this item, all council members should consider whether they have a potential conflict as follows. 1, a demonstrated bias for or against any of the parties. 2, any direct or indirect financial interest in the outcome of the proceeding, which would affect the council members personally. 3, whether there has been any prejudgment on the issues prior to the hearing the facts. 4, whether there has been any ex parte contact, meaning somebody's emailed you or texted you or talked to you at a coffee shop with anyone about this issue other than staff prior to this hearing. And finally, 5, any other conflict which a council member believes would prevent them from hearing this matter fairly and impartially. And with that, if any council member has any of those concerns or disclosures, now would be the time to make them known on the record.
Not seeing any, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then finally, are there any members of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from participating in the proceedings?
Also not seeing any, sir.
All right, thank you very much. That's the end of my quasi-judicial spiel.
Thank you. Please proceed, Ms. Vanson.
Thank you. So slide 1 here has the, let's see here. Or is that the second slide? I'll just do the intro here. So if you could go to slide 1, whoever's doing the slides, thank you. Let's way ahead. Just start with the first one if you can, the title slide, and then I'll just go as quickly as I can through here. Okay, so tonight, thank you. I just have my notes following the slides. I appreciate that. So tonight is a rezone. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so this is different than what we talked about in the last item where it was more land use designation. These are rezones that are zones under land use designation. So you'll have 3 tonight, and 2 of them are the same applicant, and 3 of them all start to sound the same. So I will do my best to just go through these and let me know if you have questions. Tonight, this one before you is to rezone 2 parcels north of Wrigley Drive, east of Road 76, from R4 high density residential and C1 retail business to mixed use zoning. And this rezone is 4.79 acres. It's currently undeveloped, and this is a non-project action. It means that there's no development being approved tonight. So the presentation will cover the quasi-judicial process, and I'm going to skip that since we are all experts in that now. And then, so for the Pasco Municipal Code, the slide on the PMC, that outlines the rezone process. And as Attorney Paulum mentioned, this went to the hearing examiner meeting, and there's 3 of these that went through on March 11th, and the hearing examiner recommendation was provided. Council's left with 3 options tonight to approve or recommend recommend approval of the rezone, or enter into a concomitant agreement, which we're not recommending at this time. There's no special circumstances that staff has identified. Or you can deny the proposed rezone with findings of fact. And the land use mapping shows the first land use map on the PowerPoint shows the existing zoning the land use or comprehensive plan. So this is the property shown in dark purple is the subject site. It should extend all the way over to the road there at the top of the L shape. But this is a mixed use designation, which does allow for R4, C1, several other zones, and mixed use as well. So this is the current comp plan map. Next slide shows the zoning map. So this parcel, still shown in the dark purple, has 2 different zones, R4 at the top and C1 on the bottom. And I believe this was rezoned a couple of years ago, and you'll see that with all 3 of these, that there's not, this is why I appreciate guidance from council, because I think historically Pasco has just allowed any and all rezones to come through as long as it fits the comprehensive plan designation. So that's something that we plan on fixing during the comprehensive plan update, and provide staff with more guidance and applicants so that it's not, haphazard in some instances. So the next slide shows the proposed zoning, where the applicant wants to rezone this to mixed use. And since the land use designation is mixed use for the site, staff did not have any issues with the property going to mixed use. And, quite frankly, the code does not prevent the site to going to mixed use. So what they can do on the site is either commercial or residential or a mix of both. So that is what is being proposed tonight. And this would be an example of something we would have better direction on with the comprehensive plan once we fix some of our regulations as well. But this is what is being proposed and staff does not have any issues and is recommending approval. So happy to answer any technical questions you have. This will not go on consent next week since it's a quasi judicial matter. So you will see it again for a decision next week.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Mattson. And also, yes, for these next three items, we won't go to the chamber since they are all for a closed record hearing for quasi judicial. But does anybody on council have any questions or comments for Ms. Mattson? I am not seeing any, ma'am. I think you are off the hook for that one.
Okay, thank you.
We will just, oh, go right ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was just going to move us right on to letter F unless you have anything else there.
Nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. This letter F is also a quasi judicial item, amending the zoning classification for real property located north of East Spokane Drive, south of East Salt Lake Street, west of North Oregon, east of Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad in Pasco, Franklin County, Washington, from C3 to Industrial 1 Light Industrial Z 2026-002. And we're right back to you, Ms. Mattson, unless our legal wants to go through his spiel again.
And Mr. Mayor, we can truncate it since we've already gone through kind of the whole appearance of fairness doctrine. Everything that I said on the previous item applies to this item, but we do need to get feedback on the last two questions. And so for this, at this time, I invite if any council member has any concerns or disclosures to now state those disclosures on the record.
Not seeing any, sir.
All right, and if there are any members of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from, are there any members of the council of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from participating in the proceedings?
Also not seeing any, sir.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Please proceed, Ms. Mattson.
Thank you. So this rezone includes 4 parcels and the rezone was already mentioned by the mayor. So I'm going to skip through the quasi judicial, the PMC, the hearing date was the same for the hearing examiner review, same as the last presentation. This is the existing land use, which is industrial. So that little site shown in orange is just showing that its land use comprehensive plan designation is industrial. Next slide shows the existing zoning. So it's kind of a lighter red there still. It's zone C3, but it also connects with I1. So the applicant's proposing to go from C3 to I1 is shown on the next screen. And since it's not a spot zone or anything out of the ordinary, staff is okay recommending approval. There is an existing use on there. I believe this one has a car wash on the site, truck wash that was developed several years ago. So they must be wanting to go to a use that only the I1 zone allows, which we felt, given the surrounding uses was applicable. So staff is recommending approval. Happy to answer any technical questions you have on this, and you'll see it again next week as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. Mattson? I am not seeing any, Ms. Mattson. We're just going to keep moving on to letter G. This is also a quasi-judicial item, introduction ordinance for Elite Investment Group LLC, rezone from R4 and C1 to mixed use Z 2026-003. And I guess we're back to our legal counsel again.
Yes, if any council member has any of the concerns or disclosures that I discussed previously that would potentially create a conflict of interest, or the appearance of a conflict of interest, now would be the time to state them known on the record.
Not seeing any, sir.
Okay, and are there any members of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from participating in the proceedings?
Not seeing any, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Mattson.
Thank you, Mayor. This one is a bit unique. There are 2 parcels in this area over by Road 90 and Sanford Parkway that have 2 different zones, R4 and C1. Again, there's a land use designation of mixed use, and the applicant is wishing to rezone both parcels to mixed use. Same criteria as noted on the last 2. It went to the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner recommended approval. Council still has the same 3 decision options. If you skip ahead to the first map slide, thank you. This shows the land use designation of both parcels. You'll notice the parcel to the north has a building on it that's already developed. And if you go to the next slide, it will show the existing zoning for these parcels. So the parcel to the north that I showed you with the building on it has a zoning of C1, and then the parcel down to the southwest is zone R4. So these two parcels together, the applicant would like to zone mixed use. And that is so they can have a mixed use designation that allows for higher density on that parcel to the southwest. And staff would have treated this the same as if it came in as a vacant land and they, the applicant wanted to put a commercial building on one site and high density residential on the other, we would certainly approve that. So in this case, we are allowing them to proceed with, if the rezone is approved tonight, with the development of high density residential on that southwest parcel. The next slide will show the proposed zoning, which is mixed use. And as you can see, it coincides nicely with the site below. And this area does lend itself nicely for high density residential. You can see it sort of fade from, the top of the screen. The light yellow is single family, and then you get into more dense development. And then the brown is multifamily, and then fading down to even higher density. So we believe this is a really good spot to put affordable workforce housing in this area, and worked with the applicant on this. So like the other two, we're recommending approval and happy to answer any questions that you might have. And this will come next week as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or comments, technical questions for Ms. Mattson from council? Not seeing any. I think that's it for you this evening, Ms. Mattson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's move on. This is letter H, resolution and ordinance authorizing acceptance of grant funding and execution of a grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Commerce Office of Crime Victims Advocacy and amending the 2025 and 2026 operating budget. And we're going to our interim chief, but Captain Harpster looks like he is up at the podium.
I am.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, what I have to present for you is our opportunity for grant funding for a domestic violence high-risk team investigator. So I'm just going to run through this pretty quick. There were more details in your packet. So for probably about 3 decades, Pasco Police Department used a system-based domestic violence advocate. That was a stop grant funded position. We stopped using that funding in January of this year, of 2025, because the stop grant OCVA, they were transitioning to a different model, and that would be the DVHRT that I just introduced, and using the DALE, which is a danger assessment for law enforcement, to assess domestic violence calls that we go on. So we transitioned to that. We trained for the DALE, and we had the opportunity to receive funding for an investigator position. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to create a position using that funding that is a sworn investigator that will help us to better investigate these domestic violence situations that our officers come upon. And it will be using the DALE, using all the tools that our investigators have at what they typically would do. But it's just going to be more in depth on these domestic violence type cases and working with the domestic violence services here in the Tri-Cities. And that's some of the partners. Some of the other partners are going to be the courts, the prosecutor's offices, probation, and just having a more robust team to really investigate these type of incidents. So what we're hoping to see is that we're going to see a reduced occurrence of repeat offenses of these domestic violence cases. We're going to hopefully see the risk of intimate partner homicides go down. because we're addressing each individual high-risk case, we're going to see increased arrests because we're actually doing more follow-up with those victims. That our investigators are probably going to see other crimes that have not been previously reported, and so they're going to be able to do more in-depth investigations with our victims. That's going to improve the safety of our victims and the service connection, especially to domestic violence services and the other resources that we have here in the Tri-Cities for victims. And then there, of course, there'll be tracking via that or the danger assessment for law enforcement, and then the case metrics, that go with that, so that we can see just how that funding and using a domestic violence high-risk team investigator is going to help with the police department and domestic violence cases. So the Office of Crime Victim Advocacy is currently offering us $44,000 approximately, and that funding is from April through June 30th of this year, and that will cover our investigators' wages. And you might say or ask, well, what about the rest of the year? What about continued funding? They have let us know that the funding for the rest of the year will be coming. It's just the way their funding in the state works, they have to do it in two different pieces. So the rest of the funding will be coming later this year, after June, when they have their funding available. And then hopefully in October, when grant funding is open again, we can reapply and continue this process with our investigator. So what we're asking tonight is we're asking for your approval for the acceptance of this grant so that we can implement the domestic violence high-risk team investigator position. So any questions that you might have for myself or even Deputy Chief or our Interim Chief Cook?
Thank you, Captain Harpster. Any questions for the captain or the interim chief? Councilmember Campos.
Just, I think another question, but just to clarify, this is not hiring somebody else. This is just assigning. Go ahead. Yeah, just assigning these duties to a current officer that we already have.
Correct. We would use one of our current FTEs.
Thank you. And just one, and you were saying, so this grant covers April, May, June, and you said we could reapply in October. So will there be a 3-month gap then? Did I understand that, or did I misunderstand that?
So in June, once OCVA receives their next funding source, then they will come back with the additional funding to carry us through the end of this year.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. I thought I understood you say there'd be a gap. Not that you said that, but yeah, it was just me.
Yeah, no gap. And then October is when the grant cycle typically opens up for resubmission.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's open it up to the chamber. Does anybody in the council chamber want to ask a question or comment on this? Mr. Cortina, step right on up, please.
Mayor Grimm and council members, I was educated today. I spent some time with prosecuting attorney Sean Sant, especially on this issue and a couple other issues concerning high risk domestic violence and also the lower risk. And where it seems to be, we're finding quite a few lower risk domestic violence, and they're putting those from a criminal cases into the district courts and lowering them. But the higher risk are really important, that we have someone from the city that is working with the prosecuting attorney, and that we do need these grants and this money for the Pasco Police Department. So I'm all for to see that we make sure that we have somebody assigned to these high risk cases and asking for this money. Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Anybody else in the council chambers want to make a comment or ask a question regarding this? Going once, going twice, 3 times. No, I appreciate it. And, I think the other aspect of it, thanks for going after and getting this grant too. I mean, I think that's worthy to be said too. Thank you for doing what we see on the streets and what we see behind the scenes of keeping our community safe. So with that, let's move on. I believe we're going probably right back to you, Captain Harpster, for letter I, which is a resolution interlocal agreement with Franklin County for our jail services. Oh, we are going to the interim chief. Thank you, my mistake. Beg your pardon.
It's all right. Mayor, council, I don't believe we have a presentation on this. We are here to have a discussion about the jail contract. Right now, that jail contract was valid from 2020 to 2023, so we don't have a contract with Franklin County Jail at this time. However, we're operating as normal with them. We have our agreement and the previous agreement and the county's proposed agreement attached to the packet for your consideration on some of the language things that we have been discussing over these years. I think the major components that we're discussing are the rate changes, medical costs and responsibilities during billing practices. And most of those, I think, are all good discussions that we've been having with them. And to this point, I think we are moving along pretty well. The background with Franklin County Jail, they have done our jail services for a long, long time. As far as I know, we've never been anywhere else. And so that facility takes care of all the city's needs when it comes to jails, regardless of whether it's city cases or we're booking into Franklin County over felony cases. So I think the impact, I think for us is this is an important service that we need to get through, and I think that those packets, the packet gives you a good idea of where we're at, and hopefully next week we'll bring you a contract.
Thank you, Interim Chief Cook. City Manager Stewart.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just add a few things to it. This is something that we've been talking about with the county for a little bit. Staff did have some concerns with regards to some of the language with regards to medical costs and those kinds of things. We wanted to make sure that we had some controls in place to make sure that the city wasn't just a blank check, but we had some ways to verify expenses and those kinds of things. And so we've been negotiating that out. We did provide to you this evening a copy with the most recent staff recommended changes through our attorney, which we provided to the county early last week. I did receive a response from the county early this evening. There is some minor changes to that. I need to discuss that with our city attorney, but our hope is to have those finalized out. I don't see anything there of major risk with some of their changes, but we'll definitely provide some of that language to you before you take final action on this next week. But just want to let you know that we had received a response from the county today. We're reviewing that, their proposed language changes there, but the intent here by staff was to protect the city and our finances, that we have some mechanism of accountability and verification through this process.
I appreciate you wanting to protect our funds and assets. Anybody on council have any questions about this? Mr. Perales?
I'll go ahead and start it off. So I guess my first question is this the best this thing can get? Because the booking fee kind of stood out to me, went from $45 to $100. So what was the justification for that from the county?
I don't know that I've discussed the justification for it, but I do know that I've been involved in the contract for a long time when I went to investigations as a captain, and I haven't seen any incremental increases that were not probably didn't feel reasonable at that time.
I will add that, yes, I believe this is the best we can get. Again, we've pushed back on some of these things. To some degree, this has become, there's been some friction in the conversations with regards to this. And I think this is the best that we can get the county to agree to at this point.
Okay. Yeah, because I did have reservations, and you touched on the medical liability part, because it seems like it shifts a lot of the burden to the city. I mean, if they get hurt in their facility, I don't think, and if just just for the sake of this argument, if it's, they're at fault, then, why should we be paying for that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Prowse, those are some of the same concerns staff had, but in consulting with our attorney, we believe there's language in there that if there are errors on their part or they've caused those types of things, that those would be financial responsibilities of the county. Those would not be costs that they'd be able to pass on to the city. But again, we've implemented that, the language in that process in there that we can verify and account for those types of things. In essence, the medical costs that we're accepting are things that would come from the routine care of the individual prior to them being in the jail. So let's say that they have diabetes and they need diabetes medication. That was a pre-existing condition before they entered into the facility. So the city would be agreeing to pay those costs while it's our responsibility. But if a fight breaks out in the jail and the person is injured, those should remain the responsibility of the caretakers.
Okay. Do we have any data on what this would cost the city? How many prisoners do we have in there currently, and if you were to apply that with some of these rates going up, what's that cost to the city?
We do have that data. I don't have that with me tonight,
Okay.
but we could provide that.
I think other than that, that's pretty much all the questions I had But we're looking to approve this next week.
That's the goal and the plan, but ultimately, the council can take as much time as they need until they feel comfortable with it.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else on council have any questions or comments? Yeah, it is kind of staggering to know we went without a contract for 3 years now and everything. And I appreciate the good faith on both parties to continue as is at that point till we till we could renegotiate it. And I understand some of these costs have gone up, and I appreciate you bringing up the medical expenses and because that is a big one. I mean, we see the cost of medical going up all around society. So with that, let's go to the chamber. Anybody want to speak to this issue? Any comments from public regarding this interlocal agreement for jail services? Going once, going twice, not seeing anybody. Let's move on. Resolution J, amendment to fire department facility use agreement. And good evening, Chief Crowley.
Good evening. All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, thanks for having me tonight, and thank you for your time. I got the last 3 items on the docket here, so we'll make it pretty quick. Just a little history. Over the last couple of years, we've been going through all of our ILAs, agreements, and making sure they're operationally sound and making adjustments as needed. And so this is one of them right here. So in December 2016, the city and Franklin County Fire District 3 entered into a use agreement allowing the district to store a water tender at Old Station 84, which is 1208 Road 48. As we are expanding, and same with the district, they would like to expand that and also have another bay to put a breathing air support unit. And what that is that's a cascade system to fill our SCBAs or our breathing bottles at fires. And so they respond to our calls with us. They're part of our dispatch run cards and part of the master mutual aid agreement. And so we would like to open that up for them to use this space as well. Currently, we are not using any of the bay spaces at this location, and so we do support that. So what we're looking for is approval of amending this current ILA, and what this does is increases it's a small little bit. It's a monthly fee of $250. That's going up from $216.60 a month to $250. It's also implementing a 3% annual increase. Both of these are just really asking for money to help us offset costs for as far as utilities of the facility. And then we're adding language in there that Franklin 3 will be responsible for any damage done to the facility. And so what we're looking for is approval of the amendment to this ILA.
Thank you, Chief. Questions, comments from council? Not seeing any. The chamber, anybody want to speak on this ILA with Franklin number 3 going once, going twice, 3 times? Let's move on. Letter K, resolution termination of ILA between the City of Pasco and Walla Walla County Fire Protection District number 5 for advanced life support services. Back to you, Chief.
All right, thank you. A little history. In November of 2008, the city and Walla Walla County Fire Protection District 5, which is Burbank area, entered into an ILA for the city to provide the ALS service, EMS service, so it's paramedic level service to their community. In exchange, we were invoicing them twice a year for $17,000, so a total of $34,000 a year. Since then, they have grown and they have enough paramedics and staff to go ahead and service their own community and wanted to terminate the agreement. And so we support them with that endeavor. And what the other thing too is we still respond and help them through our master mutual aid agreement. But what it also does is allow our resources to stay within Pasco. And so we do support that. So what we're looking for is approval to actually terminate this ILA. We're still a regional partner with them, but we no longer need this agreement with them.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments for the chief? Not seeing any questions, comments from the chamber. Going once, going twice. Not seeing any. Let's move on. Thank you, Chief. Letter L, last letter of the night. Resolution amendment to interlocal agreement between City of Pasco and Franklin County Fire District Number 3 concerning the exchange of services and the transfer of assets due to the annexation of the Road 80 area to the city.
It's a long one. Yes, and so so a little history on this too. So back in September of 2015, the city and Franklin 3 entered into an ILA. And what this was is for the annexation of some property. And so what happened was we went into an agreement that we would provide all the ALS service to Franklin 3. In exchange, we got that facility on Octave and also a water tender. So that was the exchange right there. And so since then, Franklin 3 has grown and has again built up their EMS system and some paramedics and can service their own community at the level they feel is comfortable. And we feel that it's in the best interest of the city as well to maintain our resources back in the city of Pasco. And again, we do work through the automatic and mutual aid agreements. So we're looking at this, and both Chief Harris and myself realize that this ILA has outlived its life. And so what it is, we're looking for amendment to this current ILA, and that's taking out the following language. There's section 4.A, where it says the city agrees to provide automatic advanced emergency medical services to the district at no cost. So we're removing that, and we're still going to partner with them. If they need help, we're going to go help them, but it's just taking away that instant response to them. So we're looking for approval to amend this ILA and remove that language.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments for Chief Crowley? Not seeing any. Going to the chamber. Anybody like to speak on this issue? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Thank you, Chief. That's it. Number 6, miscellaneous council discussion. Mr. Stewart.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a few things. We have a busy weekend planned this weekend with Cinco de Mayo. I want to thank our city staff and particularly Mr. Cortines and Latin Business Association for being strong partners and helping develop our agenda for this weekend with Cinco de Mayo. So it starts with a parade at 10 a.m. at Volunteer Park, and then various events going from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., including some local dance teams, a lot of music and dancing, those kinds of things. And then the capstone of the evening is a comedic show starting at 7 p.m., which Councilmember Perales himself played a valuable role in connecting for our community. So thank you to him for doing that, and we invite everyone to come out and enjoy our Hispanic culture and heritage as we celebrate that for the day downtown. Should be a fun time. It was mentioned earlier, we have our third of 4 outreach meetings and input meetings this Wednesday. It'll be at the McLaughlin Middle School, starting at 4:30 p.m. And then just a reminder that next week will be the final one. That will actually be over the noon hour, and we'll have virtual attendance ability with that too. So if anyone wants to attend that, they can reach out to staff, and we can make sure that they have the ability to participate on that via Teams. And then this will be repeated in the city manager memo for next Monday's meeting. But previously we'd asked for some feedback from council on what different entities throughout the community would you like to have a joint board meeting with. So that is summarized there, and we'll be looking for feedback from the council on that in the near future. But right now those include Pasco Chamber, Pasco School District Board, Franklin County Board of Commissioners, Port of Pasco, Mid-Columbia Library Board was requested we meet with the Union Gospel Mission, the LBA, visit Tri-Cities, Tri-City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Business Roundtable, and then I added in my memo for next week to include the Public Health District. So again, just review over those. Those will be summarized again in my memo for Monday's meeting. And that's all I have for this evening, and I have no need for an executive session tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on council? Councilmember Campos.
Just want to give a shout out to all my taco crawlers. We got one more week to eat our tacos. And just go out, support local businesses. Fun time. Great tacos out there. And I always say it again, Pasco has some grub. And so we got one more week. Let's get it done.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a big thank you to the Parks and Rec staff. They've responded to a couple areas of my district, weeds growing out on the roads or just, the boulevards not being kept up. And I'm glad they went out there and really cleaned up those areas. I've been getting this question a lot, so I don't know if this is because of an incident, but I got contacted by a couple constituents about AED requirements in apartments and why the city doesn't require them. Especially I guess in senior living facilities, senior housing. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Maybe we can get a follow-up on that. I don't know if entirely that's true. I would think senior living facilities would have something like that, but maybe they don't or they're not required to. But it was kind of odd, just a couple of comments I've gotten from the residents. And then second thing, I've been getting a lot of comments on social media about privacy landscaping along Burns. Multiple residents, I've had people call me about it. Just because they were upset that some of the trees got cut down when they put that path in, and then they took out some because a lot of them got disease, and so a lot of people along that corridor want to see something to provide more privacy for their homes. So, obviously someone said something about a block wall, but obviously that could be really costly. So I don't know about maybe perhaps putting trees along that, but obviously that's a cost. So I just want to kind of bring that to the council's attention. But those are two things I've been hearing a lot about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I know it's late, but
Yeah,
Councilmember
just
Figueroa.
quickly, I definitely, as I'm getting used to being here on City Council, and one of the things that I definitely perhaps would like to kind of hear some discussion or if we would be in agreement is to explore perhaps bringing a City Council Code of Conduct that we can kind of agree amongst ourselves as a legislative body of just best practices that we can have as elected officials, and maybe direct city staff to draft something for review. I know that we don't really have one officially or formally, but that'd be something really important, so that we can hold ourselves to some consistent structure, and also for the public to know what they should be looking for in elected officials as well. So,
Can I answer that?
Oh, please go right ahead.
Mr. Figueroa, we already do. We passed it in August of last year. So maybe the council could provide you with it. I know for a while it was in our packet. I think it's right here. So it goes over, I think, some of the things that you're talking about. So there you go.
Well, there's one in there. So, Councilman Figueroa, just to clarify, are you thinking that suffices, or would you like to see more or more detail, or if you'd flesh out your thought a little bit more there?
A little bit more robust, for sure. I think that's kind of a good starting point, but it's more of a rough draft. But if we can have more robust, that'd be pretty good.
Okay, well, that's something we can definitely talk about as a council. I mean, is that something you guys want to figure out tonight? Is that something you want to have staff bring it back as a presentation? Is this something we want to wrestle through tonight, if that's good enough or not? Or Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I was gonna say usually we bring these up at our retreat if we need to. I mean, I think what we passed last August was pretty good. I don't see any need, but I'm willing to talk about it more in a setting where we can more have a. And plus, it's late.
Okay, fair enough. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, I would just say I think we had a really pretty good discussion with the council at that time. I mean, I looked through it actually about a couple weeks ago. I had some thoughts on some stuff, but I don't see the need to bring it back, to be honest. But if the council chooses to, we can definitely look at it. But I mean, it goes over quite a bit of stuff. So I don't know where exactly the logic chain for Mr. Figueroa is going, but, you know, it's a council decision, but I think it's there and he should review it in his leisure time.
Okay, no, and that's, Mr. Figueroa, I don't know if you've looked through that or not, what's in there, whatever, but if you haven't, look at it, and if it's something you want to bring back before us and you think it's something we should look at, absolutely, it's, you know, we should, everything should always be on the table for us all the time. Sound good? Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else? I just want to have one quick call out real quick. Lieutenant Decker sent out an email today to all the business community looking for support, letters of support for a grant program for a dedicated police traffic unit. And I just was filled with glee when he said that. You know, it's something I've been a big advocate of, and I know others have spoke of that too. I don't want to take all the credit for, but it's something that I kind of ran into a brick wall of our budget early on and everything. And so for, you know, the police department to find some potential federal grant funds for that made me very, very happy. Did you have something you want to say about that, Chief, or?
No, I know that they are looking hard.
Okay, no, and that's good, and we appreciate that, yes, because obviously the budget's tight, but yet we continue to see, you know, lots of traffic infractions. I know we all do, all throughout the city, and so whatever help, and I'll be honest with you, I think it makes our whole city safer overall. When people see police pulled over, with police interacting with people, it makes them think twice about vandalism, about theft, about other, you know, other criminal activity, when it seems like, wow, there's cops everywhere around here, and I really like that. So please thank Lieutenant Decker, at least for me and probably the rest, and hopefully we can get that. So thank you. Well done, Lieutenant Decker. So with that, I think that's about it. My computer closed on me here, but yes, we've already been excused of executive session. Number 8 adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for attending, being part of your government.